You know, when Europe had a chance internationally, I mean, you know what? A couple of stories spring to mind. So gather round, younglings, gather round, gather round. Just sit at my feet and learn from me, Thorin, Esports, aka Esports, sorry. So there was these two best Korean teams, and they came out a long time ago, before your time. You know, you hadn't even discovered whatever, your Goku with your Pokemans. So there was these two best Korean teams. They came outside of Asia to this little place called Katowice, sort of like a Polish Narnia, I guess, for you guys. So anyway, they were there in Katowice, and you won't believe it. Along comes the best European team, Gambit Gaming. I'll tell you what, Gambit Gaming, you won't believe this, they were Russian, and actually they said they were sponsored by Pringles, but back then in my day, people thought Russians actually were often interlinked with potentially criminal organisations and fraud. I know, not like nowadays where you with all your professionalism and your bloody esports. So anyway, so along come these two bloody Korean teams. All right, I'm Billy Big Balls. I'm the best team in the world. And Uncle Long's Gambit Gaming, and they had this little fucking goer at Jungle. He was called Diamond Prox. Yeah, he said Diamond Pro X, but you know, bloody Russians, what do they know about English? Stick to losing wars, mate. So anyway, they were there, this Diamond Prox, Diamond Pro X. Well, he did look like bloody Pro X. He was like some sort of like secret unlockable character. And he just fucking smurfed, didn't he? Yeah, Smurfs, yeah, you know those little blue things? Gargamel, yeah, you probably don't know about it anyway. So he was smurfing anyway, and he only beats these two bloody Korean teams back to back. And I can tell you, boy, did we celebrate back then. We had a hoedown. We were drinking moonshine. You know, I think old Nancy came along. I saw her under her skirt for a second. Oh, bloody hell, this is the best night of my life. Anyway, then I went home from Polish night, and you won't believe this. Sit back. You're not going to believe it. It happened again in 2019. That's right. The olden days, that old first decade of the 20th century. Second, sorry. 2019, along comes G2, Super Team, Perks and Caps. Y'all wouldn't know shit about Caps. Anyway, back then, was he Caps? Was he Craps? Was he Claps? Who knows? I don't know. All I know is my favourite hip-hop involves boom baps. So anyway, he's there at Worlds, isn't he? And you won't believe this. Along come these bloody Koreans again. I tell you what, you can't keep them down. Fair play. They have that fighting spirit, isn't it? See why they've been at war for so long. So along they come. Damn one. Yeah, I bet you fucking are. Then T1. Is everyone fucking won? Well, I'll tell you what, they were second in this match. Because then comes Jankos. Yeah, and you know what? He's even from, not Katowice, but Polish Narnia. He's from Poland too. I don't know what it is about Poland. Something going on in the water there. Anyway, enough about that. EU standards and that, dropping, Schengen area. Anyway, so along come these teams, damn one and bloody T1, and they think, hey, we're going to take care of these Europeans. What's a bloody European? That was some Victorian age shit. And you know what we showed them? Yeah, that's right. Jankos handled them too. Damn one, you're out. You're sitting at home crying. T1, who the fuck are you? Faker, appropriate name. Get out the fucking game. They beat them too. Now, not that you kids know anything about that with your bloody iPhones and your fucking Roblox or whatever you're into. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? Hey, go on, speak up, you in the front. Listen, old man, I don't have time for your bullshit. You know what? We still got that going on, old timer. That's what you think. No one cares about your stories of the olden days and side laning and your dragons that didn't even have buffs on them. Fuck it. What were you doing back then in the Stone Age? So anyway, this is about new school league. This is about fucking modern day shit, home slice. And it's a little bit more advanced than your fucking Victorian age, whatever you're talking about. Fuck your Diamond Prox. I see you and raise your SkewMond. We're beating FearX. That's right. Victor's back on his shit. Nah, he's back in the LCS, you little dunce. Sit in the corner. Gen.G, the greatest team in the regular season. Well, this isn't the regular season, is it? It's a fucking big time now. Fuck up that bit. Anyway, Euphoria. I don't need your pipe. That's the fucking opium we're smoking on, old man. Anyway, that's the end of that skit. Welcome to Summer Insight. So don't worry, there's going to be more. There's going to be more of that in the coming weeks, Yamato. By the way, I like the way I make you just enjoy that. He doesn't even know what's coming, by the way, guys. He had no clue what that skit was. He had to just sit there and be like, does this have rent? Does it have rent?
But what is this? What is this wig, bro? That's your Larson cosplay, bro.
It's pretty good, though, isn't it? It's pretty good. Tell you what, you didn't expect that guy to come out, did you? A little anarchist punk rocker with his own takes
Chicken
about
Little
modeling.
came out, bro. He was defending New Age League of Legends.
Anyway, the point is, Yamato, last episode, we were the frauds. We all were like, right, Gen.G's won it, buddy, cancel G2. Everyone on, by the way, we weren't the only frauds. Everyone on Reddit and Twitter, before the group stage is even done, this format, shit, why are we having BO5s? It's all 3-0s. Yeah, you're liking 3-0s now, though, aren't you? So first of all, by the way, BO5 also makes all those results better. If that was a 2-0 over FearX, not the same as a 3-0. And I'll tell you what, a 3-0 over Gen.G, that might go down as like the best fucking result ever. Because let's start there. Obviously, this episode's going to start with some mad praise. Like G2, you can complain about how FearX players played or how Gen.G tactically chose to draft it. But at the same time, you're like, oh, they could have done all that. They'd still beat most teams at this tournament. In fact, for all we know, we'll never know with Gen.G now. Maybe they even would have beaten BLG. But it doesn't matter because G2 not only beat them, but bro, as a SkewMond enthusiast, this was a fucking amazing tournament, bro. This guy actually, I made that reference as a joke to Yankos and Adam. He's a category, mate. This guy is fucking goated. This is even why a lot of us sadly look at Lion and go, I don't really care how you do. Can you just please come home and spy? And if you come home and join like fucking Carmine Corp or something, we'll run the fucking scene. We'll have 2 teams that can do this. Because let's start there. This was baller if you're an EU fan. What a fucking amazing 2 days it was. Back to back too.
Honestly, it was like the result against Gen.G was so great, so we don't care about the first LCK 3-0. Like the BFX series, like whatever. Now,
don't worry about that.
It's like it's such a distance in terms of what kind of an accomplishment it was, because like rightfully so, we all said how strong Gen.G is coming into this tournament, that even on what we would perceive as Gen.G's worst day, we couldn't imagine this happening. The amazing thing for me about G2 is the fact that outside of the finals, I didn't think Caps was close to being the best performing player on the team. And in a world where I imagine G2 conquering anybody, it would be with the spear that has like Caps on its tip together with SkewMond, like pushing him right behind, like they did in the Winter Split. But you could argue, of course, in the BLG series, Caps was fantastic, but throughout the rest of the World Championship, he was like this first time, he was quite quiet. He wasn't really there. And then at the same time, like Labrov and SkewMond were just taking over games. The series against Gen.G, how Labrov and SkewMond connected around mid lane and made sure that Caps could transition into the game in a really, really good way. And Broken Blade actually had like some massive payoff in terms of his tank play, always showing up. It's like we got to finally see the image that they were working towards when there were periods of frustration in regards to G2. Because I can easily say, for all 4 players outside of Caps, this was the highest level performance they have ever shown in their individual career. Like I can't think of any moment that is better than this moment. Broken Blade obviously has had a career of like being like good against like Zeus in one series maybe, but like other than that, like this was a massive peak, a newfound peak that allows you to dream a little bit more about the future. And I think that's the big thing, because I can see a world where they could get even better with Caps, of course, finding like more consistency in that peak performance that we saw glimpses of at certain points in the tournament.
Okay, let's actually talk about these 2 series, because when are we ever going to have a chance to talk about not only a victory of an EU team in a BO5 against a Korean team, bro, they were both sweeps. There were 3-0 sweeps. And by the way, these weren't even like close to each other. Some of these games were just complete shitstorms from the beginning of the game. Let's go to the FearX one. Look, admittedly, I even did say this coming into this tournament, to be fair. The reason why FearX was the one I had my question marks about from Korea is just because the difference is Gen.G and BLG, even to some degree, some of the JDG players, there's some veterans in those teams. There's people who've been here before. Like, if you go and look, even the Diablo guy himself is a rookie to like a massive international land like this. So I do think if you look at FearX, look, it was more plausible some of their players might fail, but some of them just got clapped in this series, Like, give me some thoughts on this series. Like, how did they lose so badly?
I think the main thing that G2 really caught on to was like in reference to what Tabe said in terms of like square drafting and how like the way I interpret it and the way I understand it is just the relationship between all of the champions on your team in terms of how you drive the game. And I think that what BFX did and also Gen.G to some degree also did is that they focus on making sure that they have very strong 2v2 pairings that scale into the game. And I think that G2 did a very, very good job of making sure that they find push in the bot lane that enables Labrov to just connect to mid lane. And then they fought hard on the 3v3 mid. And even in the opening game, they made sure to like remove a lot of the combos out of the pool already. They had high Ashe prio, and then the enemy, of course, picked Nico, and then they dropped AD, and they didn't ban Yunara. It was so intentional, even though it's one of the best champions of Diablo. They wanted him to pick the Yunara with the Nico to just get the Lulu combo out of the way. And the moment those champions were trimmed down and BFX couldn't drive the game through bot lane, you could clearly see in this meta in terms of how everything has developed that support needs to be enabled to drive the game through mid lane because of how you can, of course, put wards on bot lane, how you can make bot lane safe, and of course how the mid lane crashes first. And I feel like G2 really, really caught on to this. And against BFX, after they managed to control mid and have like push in the actual bot lane, there were never any scenarios where Diablo actually qualified into the game. Because on top of these strategic aspects of making sure the draft is good, when it's like your jungle and super kind of serves you dinner, and then it's about how you eat, you know. And many times we've seen like Hans Sama be in these positions where he gets caught in mid-wave, throws a lead, buys the wrong item. Same thing for BB sometimes. He just kind of has a hard time in the lane matchups, but they delivered the positions they needed to play. I think they had a very strong meta read, and on top of that, their leads were very honest. They made sure that they hit the right beats, and they were very confident in finding engage angles, because that's the main concern always. It's like we've seen European teams get lead. We've seen G2 get leads, but it was always like concerning. It's like, oh, when they come into mid game, the execution around the team fights is just not going to be there. But here, it's like the moment their space was their space, they actually pulled the trigger, and they did it very, very heavy. Because even thinking back to their series against KC, we had many moments where Hans Sama got caught. We had moments with BB kind of lost lane. We had moments where G2 threw leads after leads and made those, you know, that series very interesting when in 5 games they were just so far ahead out of the early game. And here they actually found a way to convert that massive strength. And against BFX, they just never got into the game. Like Raptor, Diablo, they didn't do anything when they were, of course, the strongest point of the team. And I can mention Clear too, but you mentioned it yourself. It's like they are playing an international tournament for the first time. They're bound to have some players that underperform. I think that's the nature of international competition. And Clear, they had a very, very rough tournament, but all in all, like this was a fantastic strategic victory, and also just on the individual basis, like Hans Sama was better than Diablo in this best of 5 through and through, which is amazing to say.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously, because Diablo, look, I don't care about the whole literal rules of how Riot does it, like you're a rookie for a split or a year or whatever. I call you a rookie colloquially if you haven't played, like in this case, internationally, he's a rookie. He's barely played League of Legends in this sense. And he's expected to carry his team. Like, this is like Callisto on KC. You're not just a player. You're supposed to be the star player too and actually beat mega players at your opposition. Aside from this series, he was excellent in this tournament. He had a very good tournament. But in this series, he actually did have big problems. I'll tell you one obvious problem to me, Yamato, is you can see how the team actually did a good job in the past playing around him. Because, mate, he looked a lot better when he had like an enchanter lane support with him and he could just go super fucking aggro. You saw in this matchup, actually, I agree, Hansama was better than him, mate. Hansama and Labrov actually were the better lane. And absolutely, this guy made some, unfortunately, in the other games, I always say, like, I thought he was fairly blameless when he played against BLG. He looked awesome, bro. In this series, it wasn't like he gets excused. He had his own issues too. He had some problems.
That was so tricky because it's like what G2 recognized. It's kind of like they tapped into what KT tapped into at the World Championship, where they made sure that they drafted the pushing lane, bot lane, no matter what, and made sure to convert that. There were so many games, like in that opening game I already mentioned with the Ashe, Seraphine, prio being super high, and that was something that, of course, BLG also caught on to on the other side of the bracket. And then in the opening game, the fact that Diablo had to pair Yunara together with Nico, because they picked Nico for the matchup, and it didn't work out. That just meant, like, already in Fearless, a lot of those combos that you want to play, that you would thrive on, were already kind of out of the picture. And then in the following game, it was the same. It's like they didn't have the Nami prio, even though they banned Varus and Nautilus on first pick side. They just didn't pick Nami. And then easy Koki Nami for the enemy team, and then you end up playing Kai'Sa Rakan in a matchup that is very difficult for you. It just seems like G2 had a very, very clear idea of which matchups and which champions became the strongest in the Fearless due to the bans, and made sure they just had pushing bot, because no matter what you can say, like Diablo and Kellen, if they're playing Kai'Sa Rakan, if they go even, that's a massive win in this matchup. And they were doing like fine, but not enough for this team to function, because it's very clear that this team just needs to drive the game through bot lane no matter what.
And, well, don't worry, we're definitely going to talk about this also when we discuss the Gen.G series. But, bro, as I said, if you are a SkewMond enjoyer, bro, we were eating good. We were having a fucking Hawaiian luau. We were just, any more of that? Delicious. Like, mate, he absolutely gapped the living hell out of fucking Raptor. Like, it was unbelievable. This guy had a better performance against Raptor than fucking that T-Rex at the end of Jurassic Park, whatever. It was low-hanging fruit. Listen, but he was amazing in this. I mean, you saw flashes in past international tournaments. Remember, he himself's a rookie from last year. I even told people, even if you go and look at EWC and at fucking MSI, he'd still have the odd game here and there where you were like, oh, fuck, he is that good, like against Gen.G. But his problem was, like a rookie, he also got dwarfed. Mate, you wouldn't know this guy's only played 1 year pro, 1 and a bit year. He looks like this is the craziest part. It even took my boy Yankos years to get to this level, bro. Like, this guy's already, he skipped ahead. I really do think it's funny that in the same year we got an LEC, Kalist and SkewMond, because both of them just look like actual prodigies, bro. Like, this guy's going to be one of the best players. I thought he was amazing in this series.
I think the most impressive part is that this is clearly a meta where jungle can make so many mistakes and can make so many decisions that impact the whole game.
Yes.
In terms of your invade angles, gank angles, and keeping beats and making sure that you keep track of enemy jungle, because the opportunities to evade on 6 and on crab on level 3, level 2, keeping track of all these camps and playing with that information. It's incredibly brutal if there's a slight advantage in the other side. It was the same. Like, I reference back to the finals. It's like Yike was getting gapped by SkewMond, but Yike was really good against the whole rest of the field because those small differences, make a massive difference in terms of your timing. Because even the final, just talking about jungle, Shun gapped SkewMond. It's like there's
Yes.
these feast of famine elements to the jungle that puts even more pressure on you to be insanely precise. And SkewMond was like borderline perfect. Like, he was playing so well, was hitting all the beats, was protecting Caps in very, very dangerous spots. There were games where like Caps was playing Victor against Ari Vi, and then he found gank time just to break Ari ult to keep us safe until he has flash. And he just seemed so in tune with all of the ideas that needed to be kind of addressed in the game. I was insanely impressed by SkewMond. For me, even though, like, this to me goes down as one of the best Western jungle performances of all time, up there with like Diamond Prox when he, like, back in at the IM, when he was invading, because it's just it's very rare that we have a situation where jungle is so damn important and SkewMond, and we have a Western jungler that keeps up. Because every time we've had junglers that are like on that level, it's usually just like, oh, they're hitting the beats with a Sejuani, with a Poppy jungle, with a Maokai jungle. It's usually like very, very simplified. But here it's very, very complicated. And SkewMond just had a fantastic tournament. In this series, he completely gapped Raptor. And that's a Raptor that gapped the likes of Owner, like there's like levels to this game. Yes. And you can clearly see when the one jungler has the advantage. And obviously there's lane dynamics at play, but the converting that really puts a lot of pressure on the jungle. And as you mentioned, it's like he's been playing now in the LEC for a little bit over a year. It's like, it's incredible that he's already at this level. And I'm just happy to say, I had the take that I got shit for, where I said that in terms of jungling, SkewMond is better than Inspired, even though Inspired is more valuable to his team. And I made that claim, and people were very upset with me, but I'm happy to see it pay off, because SkewMond really has that jungle essence at the peak, even though Inspired is really damn good.
Well, especially because to me, the obvious missing step was Inspired's done it internationally, whereas we hadn't had that properly from SkewMond. I know what you mean. Like, put it this way: the other problem also is obviously Inspired doesn't have as good teammates, does he? Like SkewMond has some pretty good fucking teammates to have with him. I know what you mean though about like the gap. The gap. I gap you, then I get gapped by someone, then they get gapped. There's always a bigger fish. You can think there's two memes you can do it. It's either the cartoon where it's like owner gets eaten by the bigger fish that's fucking Raptor, then gets eaten by Canyon, then fucking SkewMond eats Canyon, and then he's like burps, and then just as he does, a giant fucking shark just eats him, and that's Jun at the end. Or you can do the other one, the other John Wick meme, where they're in that church, where it's the first guy, and there's the guy behind him with the gun, and then at the back, Jun with the sniper rifle, like, I got you all, bitches. Exactly. I know. And also, we'll get to that later, that specific matchup. But here's one last angle about the FearX series is this, Yamato. I actually think this is where people have recency bias, because if they're thinking of the Gen.G series, Caps had some great games there. Bro, I actually thought Caps was kind of ass in this FearX series. Like, everyone else had a great tournament. He was kind of like still having some problems. He looked more like the Caps from the LEC, mate. He had some moments that were a bit sketchy, actually. Because the problem is, I know people, especially if they don't follow EU, are just going to go, oh, wow, I guess Caps did it again. It's like, yeah, Gen.G was great. In this series, it was a bit whatever.
I think the Zoe game was very solid. Good Zoe game. I think he played very well there. But that Azir game, like he was dying left and right. And then you can see the classiness of Caps because he did find like a very good angle where he shuffled the Kaiser, because that was a very contentious game, that game too. He stayed in the game and you could see the experience shine through. But he was like 1-7 on Azir in the first place. And the story of how he got there was definitely riddled with a lot of mistakes. Like definitely leading up to the third game, easily Caps was the weakest performer on G2, and that is not to put flack on Caps. It's like Caps are Western GOAT, you know. It's like we don't say this to put shit on Caps. We say it to praise everybody else because we've never seen that dynamic in G2 since forever. It's always been Caps at the forefront of a great international performance, with maybe like Mickey doing something amazing, Wunda doing something amazing, or Perks, of course, but it's usually just Caps. And in this series, Caps was chilling for the first time in his life in a long time.
By the way, look, in that series, Caps was a little bit of a bald fraud considering his team 3-0. But obviously, we're about to talk about the ultimate bald frauds this time, which is obviously fucking Gen.G, the team that we're not wrong. I've said this a million times, even if they fail, that the contrast of their failure is in how insane they are when they don't fail. Like, I think if people saw that stat on Reddit, it was something like they've won like 140 matches and lost 13 or something. The problem is the 13 are all like the world's match, the first night. It's all the biggest matches, you fucks. But aside from that, like, they might be the best team ever. So before we get to that, Yamato, if someone was a bald fraud, Korean or European, what could aid them? What could come to their rescue? Like Gandalf over that fucking Helm's Deep in the Twin Towers. Two Towers, whatever it was called.
Honestly, there might be, some interesting correlation, considering it's like performance is tied to your confidence, and your confidence might be tied to, of course, your hair starting to thin. And that's why Hims, of course, makes it very simple to feel like yourself again, with access to simple, personalized care that fits your life. And of course, your hair goals. Fitting your life, that's a very crucial one, because, for example, I cannot do topical minoxidil. I can't do the thing where I put it on my hair because it's toxic to cats. So you can do oral minoxidil. You can mix and match, and you can figure out what is best for you, because obviously human beings react to very different things. They have very different circumstances. So on my side, I already mentioned what I'm doing. I got the finasteride as well, the 1 milligram. It's I gotta start early. I still have my hair, that's why I'm not wearing I'm wearing a cap because it's comfy for me. But I want to start early because I've said this multiple times. I want to make sure that I have that. I want to be in that espresso commercial at one point. Being like Monte Carlo. Drinking coffee. With my
turtleneck sweater.
Yeah.
Your beautiful wife comes in and opens the curtains, all the lights shine.
Yeah. That's the dream.
I know. I can see it already.
Silver fox, you just die happy like that, like an open casket. I got my hair still, Yes. That's the mission. Exactly. That's the dream.
Yeah, and the dream is that as they pass the casket, they go, hell of a corpse. God.
Yes, that's my mission. And Hims obviously offers very convenient access to a range of prescription hair loss treatments with ingredients that work, including chews, oral medications, serums, and sprays. Doctor-trusted ingredients like finasteride and minoxidil can stop further hair loss and regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. And the convenient aspect of it all is that there's no hidden fees, no surprise costs, just real personalized care on your schedule. You don't have to do that whole process of calling and going to a doctor, and then he like asks you specific questions like, oh, do you really need this? And then it's like, it's awkward, you don't know what to say, and blah, 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 blah. This is very, very streamlined, very, very easy. And of course, it is just your digital front door that just gets you back to your old self. So with that being said, for simple online access to personalized and affordable care for hair loss, ED, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/LFN. That's HIMS.com/LFN for your free online visit. Featured products include compounded drug products, which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information. Individual results may vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride. Thank you, Hims.
Let's get into it. Obviously, now we're going to talk about the biggest earth-shaking result for years. I mean, if people don't know, the last time an EU team had beaten a Korean team in a best of 5 was actually like the G2 super team, but the year later when they beat the Gen.G with BDD and then they lost to Dan1. But that was like a fucking like a real team of players. This one, yeah, okay, if you beat Raptor and Clay, that doesn't sound as epic. The other day you not only beat Gen.G, you 3-0 them. This might be the best upset ever. Here's why. Because the only contenders really are the old G2 super team, but those were closer games, or those were like 3-2s or 3-1s. And then also people are going to bring up Team Liquid beating IG, because technically IG were world champions, LCK, LPL champions. The difference is, you look at IG, that's a team you know can play down to the level of the report. That's a team where you know the Shy might get cocky and in, Jackula might go in, Bowler might be a front. These aren't impossible things. Bro, I'm telling you, even though Law, as a joke, said 3-0 G2 on the desk, she was doing that for the sake of entertainment and the broadcast, guys. Like, if you'd really asked, like, gun to your head, every analyst, even people, basically, everyone except G2 staff, they would all have told you, it doesn't matter what the score is, Gen.G is definitely winning this series. It's one of the most locked series of all time. I mean, even if you go player for player, Yamato, what? Paps in the modern days beating Chovy, the best player in the world? No chance. You even look at some of the people that get criticised. Kane, we just had a discussion last episode. Is he the GOAT top laner? He's playing Broken Blade that we all criticise internationally. Hans Sama, bro, you're playing the guy people call the GOAT of fucking ADC, Ruler. And if anything, Ruler actually comes alive in international tournaments. Like, everything was stacked against him. This was a win that I even look back now, and until I start remembering the specifics of the game, it still doesn't even feel real. This feels like I fucking dreamed it, bro, and then I woke up like, that didn't really happen, did it? Like, the idea was a 3-0, and mate, this was a real 3-0 too. Like, they were beating that ass from beginning to end of some of these games. Like, give me some thought. Where are we starting on this one? Where are we starting?
Honestly, yeah, I think the starting point of like discussing it, whether this is like the biggest upset in the history of the game, it's like the TLIG one, like Albus Nox Luna getting out of group is a freaky one because they beat like Rox Tigers in G2 and I believe COG. That's like freaky, but considering all of the context where we were looking at markets that predicted if Gen.G are going to do the Golden Road, was a 20% chance in their March. Like, that context alone, they were 80% favorite to win the whole tournament before it even started. Gen.G looked unbeatable. They lost more games in this series, lost more maps in this series than they did all year long. This is such a freaky result.
Torres has more game wins against G2 than Gen.G does this year. True.
And they had more chances, you know?
True.
And they had way more chances. It's just completely nuts, because even from the champions that they played, you could see that this is like we were talking about how, you know, Chovy on Galio or like the Ambessa or the Gwen, these are all like classics. You can talk about the Vayne, but we never talk about the Gen.G's draft problems. It's like, if anything, there was 2 concerns I had about Gen.G that I thought would bite them in the ass way further down the line, maybe against Billy to make them lose a game or 2, where their jungle and support don't connect and play together, and they are very greedy in the way they draft their bot lane, that they are used to playing matchups that aren't super winning, and they win them anyway. That's like something that just makes Gen.G impossible to replicate, because their sheer force in lane phase is just so powerful, and their idea of how they side lane doesn't require their jungle and support to do a lot of work for them, so everyone gets to do their own thing. But the moment the lane phase, especially like the main thing that I think when Gen.G lose their flair, it's kind of like they have the highest peak possible, but it's at the same time built with paper cards in a way, because the moment Keen and Chovy can't dominate their lane opponent the same way that they always do, you can see that the flaws of how they play with jungle and support begins to drown them out. And then they don't get that information from side lane the same way, and then they need to play an honest game, and then they're playing catch-up. Because they lost in a very similar fashion to KT as well when they played at the World Championship. And because it all came down to is like, oh, the enemy team drafted full pushing bot lane, and then they connected with jungle mid into 3-on-3. And what Gen.G does, it's not their strength to connect with jungle and support around mid lane. Canyon wants to do his own thing, and they gain information through the lane phase. They play a very solid like 1-2-2 game, while a team like, of course, G2, especially at this tournament, played pushing bot and then just run with support into mid and then just harass Chovy, push him out. Because there's so many times Dura just got caught in river. She got caught in river, got taken in river, got killed in river, and G2, with the leads that they had, I couldn't believe it. It's like in the opening game. It's like, oh, they're ahead, but they're playing this Misfortune Aurora draft. That's scary. They make one mistake in a team fight, they give shutdowns. Suddenly they're going to get outscaled. It's going to be a very tough game. And as I'm watching the game, it's like real time. I still think there's going to be an angle where Gen.G kind of make it back into the game. And then you finish watching one game and you think to yourself, okay, they did it one game, now it's going to change. And somehow, gradually, it just got worse and worse for Gen.G. It just looked borderline. The third game just looked completely unplayable out of the opener. And I have to give the most amount of props to just SkewMond and Labrov, because as a pairing, they played so much better than the counterparts in Canyon and Duro. And most of the time, that pairing, you know, it was the same with BFX. When they played against Gen.G, you hope that the pairing of Kellen and Raptor, with the way they played together, that they can kind of shut out, of course, Canyon. But that didn't matter. And that was their biggest strength at the time. But G2 managed to do it in their own way with the same kind of leverage over Gen.G in a very, very beautiful fashion. Like, in the end, this was just a fantastic series from G2 that just gradually looked worse and worse for Gen.G. And to really, really hammer home the point, I think that when it comes to international tournaments, I think it's kind of a mixed bag if you have individual players that might underperform or perform. But I think that Gen.G, the way they play the game, it's not durable at all towards a underperformance from Keen or Chovy. The other players are allowed to underperform. That's no problem. But if Keen and Chovy don't have the same leverage in the game, then they can't silence the same way, and they can't find information the same way. Because Gen.G is the type of team that plays on 3 lanes constantly, where if 4 people walk and they try to gank Chovy into side, maybe he gets away, maybe he gets killed, but instantly they're just getting something else on the map. They're constantly pushing on 3 lanes, playing on 3 lanes, getting information through 3 lanes, playing a very disconnected variant of the game. But the moment you're not strong enough to do that in the 1v1 or in the 2v2, this is where it becomes very, very tricky, and you need to play the connective game that everybody else is playing. And that's why, to me, it's like Gen.G just looks so much better than everybody else when they are playing this style that nobody should even attempt to mimic, because Bilibili tried to. Bilibili tried to in the regular split, where they played very disconnected, played very, very heavy on side, and they couldn't connect to the objectives. The teams that just played better with the jungle and super were just beating them in the regular split. But then when Shun and On kicked it into gear, then suddenly everything kind of was put into place. So Gen.G need to kind of reflect inwards if they want to go down that path that relies on that peak, precise performance from their solo laners, or if they're going to actually lean into that playstyle that has caught them off guard now at 2 international tournaments very, very close to one another. Because I feel like this series looked very similar to how KT won their series against them too, where it was a very streamlined gameplay loop where they just connected onto BDD, pressured onto Chovy, took over one side wherever BDD was, and then just grouped on the objectives with very, very simple, streamlined kind of objective team fighting compositions with, of course, Broken Play playing tanks.
There's a forthcoming episode of Hot Take Point Made League of Legends Edition where I go into this specific point a bit more because someone else raised it, but I'll briefly mention it here. In a weird counterintuitive sense, Yamato, I actually get the feeling that Gen.G winning way too much in regular seasons, and I'm just going to go ahead and assume it. I assume they're probably scrim monsters too, mate. They look like it. Like, they look like a team that very rarely in any context loses a game of League of Legends, no matter what they draft, how they play. Right, this might sound counterintuitive, but I actually think that might be one of the things that's biting them in the ass in these massive pressure games that they lose. Because one thing I've always loved about League, with so many different options and comp possibilities, is it's what Monty used to do back in the day on OGN, where he would give you the win conditions, right? This team needs to play this style with the comp through this player, and they need to hit these key power spikes for items or these key objectives. If you can streamline the game, I'm sure as a coach you know this, you don't have to have 50 ways to play the game. You just need 1 or 2 ways, and then the team start to understand that. In a weird way, Yamato, what you're describing, like essentially when they're at home, Gen.G can draft anything. They can even draft crazy shit like they did in this series. They would win on it. Also, they can play every style of League of Legends. They can side in, they can team fight, they can fucking play a scaling game, they can win from behind. Think of some of the wins they had in the LCK Cup when they were crazy behind and they were coming right back in it. You can never beat them. Also, as you say, one of their check marks should never be a check mark for any team, but it's like our solo winners are always ahead. That really is. Canyon starts every game in LCK. That's why I say I think he's a bit fraudulent. I never have to see him get exposed. He all starts with super laners that are ahead and can both play a self-contained game that doesn't even need him camping them. So if you look at that, in a weird way, I think one of the problems they've run into, because I've seen this against KT at Worlds, I even saw this actually partly at the MSI they won, where they were playing against T1. It wasn't until Game 5, Dom made this brilliant point. In Game 5 at MSI, it's like they remembered, wait a minute, we're Gen.G, why are we playing into like the T1 style and just team fighting them? Why don't we do that shit where we play off the map and we decide where the fights are and we disengage and we sideline and we farm and then we'll choose when we take. Like, that's silly about this team is I feel like they get away with so much that they think they have the whole menu to choose from. Bro, if you could go back in time now, they would just draft normally and play a really cynical series. They'd just play the power picks and just get ahead. Like, I feel like in a weird sense, like, I know this sound weird, but sometimes losses are good for a team. You know what I mean? They sort of show you where your limitations are, where you should stay within your lane, where like you're saying, they shouldn't even get away with it. No other team would get away with playing Gen.G style because they could do it. It felt like they had it. I've never seen a team from the LCK specifically. LPL teams have done it many times. I've never seen an LCK team this misaligned to what their own strengths would be in the game.
Yeah, it's just it kind of reminds me of what like it's similar to how like T1 lost to DRX in a sense where T1 had this level of greed that they accepted at some point because there was a trade-off. But then at some point you keep playing with that same level of greed. Aatrox is the champion that stands out. Everyone knew at that tournament that it was really, really broken. And T1 was that good that they got away with playing into Aatrox and they won games into Aatrox. Even in the in the group stage, we beat them with playing Aatrox. Like we won a game against, we had Aatrox top, they played Jax into it, and we paired it together with their Poppy because Poppy was good to Jax, and we had a very good game into them. We beat them. And at some point, when you make those trade-offs, it's like, oh, we're going to play this matchup bot lane, but we're going to get these picks in the 1-2, and we're going to have a very, very good trade. And sometimes I feel like Gen.G is the team that really gets lost in what they should get away with and what the matchups actually are. Because it's okay to draft yourself into a matchup that might be worse in the context of course, setting up a scenario where you gain something from it within the draft. But if you're at the point where you're playing into a Lulu lane, into a losing matchup, and there is no big trade-off, all of these things kind of catch up to you so quickly the moment you have players that underperform. Because Keen, in my mind, I think he had a very, very weak series, but I think this is something that is a part of the conversation when it comes to international tournaments. We've had tournament winners or finalists go all the way, where along the way they had players that underperformed and they figured it out. Like going internationally, not having the same scrim routine, being outside the routine, not having solo queue, the odds of you being sharp or not, depending on where the meta develops real time in a tournament, that can vary a lot. Like we mentioned, Clear, Keen had a weaker tournament here. Like that can easily happen. Even T1 that won last year, they didn't have a good start at all. Like we had the opening series against IG, where maybe in a world where the shine doesn't tunnel into the tower, maybe that looks different. And they had a competitive series against KOI in the group stage. Underperformances are a part of the equation internationally, but I do think that Gen.G's playstyle is very the opposite of resilient, like very weak towards individual performance, specifically in the solo lanes. When Canyon or Ruler or Duro underperforms, I really don't think it matters super much. But the moment Chovy and Keen have like a reserved series, then it hurts you the most, especially when the meta shifts and you don't have that high level of precision and execution, because underperformances happens. Like we talked about Caps also underperforming when his teammates did good. That's a part of the equation. I think that's just something that we need to kind of accept and tolerate. And then the teams that have like a very strong foundation of recipes that can replicate in the game, where everyone has a very determined role, those are the teams that do very well at international tournaments, like a KT, or the fact that Gen.G made it here in the first place is like Tabe's specialty is to make his teams kind of have very streamlined kind of game plans as they go. And I think that really helps when you go internationally, because you can always lean back on that. But leaning back on, yeah, we're just gonna be ahead in lanes. That's insane if you can't do that the majority of the year, but internationally that can become a question mark.
I mean, let me ask you about an obvious example of that was smack bang in the middle of the series. You're down 0-1. You have Keen, who, as we discussed, normally is like the Rock. He's the most reliable one. He can carry, he can hybrid, he can weak side. He has a massive champion pool. He can play the power picks, right? Why on earth down 0-1 are we pulling out? Hey, Keen's going to do his Vayne party trick, guys. What? Even when I saw this in draft, Yamato, I was like, this is either going to be one of the most legendary comeback games ever, or this is just some crazy drafting. What are we doing? Bro, the last person to pull off a fucking Vayne top lane was like old Zeus on T1. And even then it used to be hit and miss because of what the champions like. What do you think of this draft, bro? For Keen of all people.
Like I didn't think it was that great of a spot to play it into a mid laner that you don't see, because usually mid lane champions are the ones that counter Vayne, whether it's Twisted Fate or any mage really, and then you play into, of course, Varus. I understand in the context of just seeing Kesante and Zahen, you're not going to be able to be ganked. They are very bulky champions that you can kite easily. You're going to be able to and allowed to play in isolation. But even in that moment, when they locked this in, I was like, okay, this is Gen.G. I see Chovy on Ahri. I see Canyon on Vi, Ruler, Duro Alistar, Classic. I'm thinking, yeah, no problem. They might have a weaker bot lane here. Caps is winning his lane against Ahri in isolation until Vi is 6, but Chovy will figure it out. He'll be ahead somehow, and then Vi will be 6, and they'll find the gank angle on the Victor, and the Victor is going to be useless. It's so easy to just see the image of that for Gen.G. Without nameplates, for sure, blue side is winning every time. But with nameplates, I'm thinking Gen.G win every time because they kind of cheat and break the game. But if you zoom out, of course, without nameplates, easily it's like, oh, you have losing bot lane matchup, losing mid lane matchup, losing jungler, where, of course, Zahen is way stronger than Vi early in river and can just step onto the river. And with those details in mind, the moment Vi got 6 and they tried to find those gank angles onto Victor, Labrov and SkewMond were always there. They read the plays that they wanted to do like a book, and at some point they just became very desperate in the game. It's like Chovy tried to find angles, but he couldn't find anything because G2 played so damn compact. And I just reference it once again. It just looked so similar to how KT won, but at the same time even way more extreme than that, because Gen.G just couldn't get into the game at all and couldn't find angles on side lane just because of how the meta has changed so much coming into this year's League of Legends.
Okay, we will talk, don't worry, about the final, the G2 BLG game, and some of the other things in this tournament. But first, now that we've seen the epic fucking blockbuster outcomes of the tournament, which was quite shocking across the board, how about our friends at Polymarket have a market that is the next international tournament, MSI, and it's which teams will qualify to MSI. So at the moment, despite their loss, Gen.G is 93% according to the traders there. BLG themselves, the champions, they're at 89%. G2 is at 83%, so they're also getting a lot of credit from the traders. After that, T1's at 50%, so people are still a bit nervous about that one. And then the joke is Anyone's Legends 49%. FearX now is only 35%, by the way. Everyone's out of FearX. Like, fuck them. The stock's gone. They're done. Fuck up. Like, frauds. Back you go. Vikla, you fooled us twice, mate. Not a third time. I want to know, right, of all these names, just go down from the top. Which do you think number makes sense? Is anyone shocking to you how high they are, how low they are? What are you thinking?
I kind of respect the FearX angle, because it's like we've been talking about the LCK and how everything like is gonna shift. Like I think there's a very big chance that FearX is not gonna make any noise because they need to maintain the same level that they had, and at the same time they need to hope that Hanwha Life and T1 don't get it together. And I just, for me, like if someone told me gun to my head, I need to predict who's going to MSI, I'm picking T1 and Gen.G, and then I'm putting Hanwha Life right behind them, regardless of how they played in the spring. It's like it's still Kanavi, Gumayushi, Zeus.
Yes,
like these are very, very big names to try to break. And now they've had a lot of time to process this, and I don't think these Korean teams in particular are gonna be like the ones that are like, we're shit, we're gonna stop. They're probably just grinding their ass off coming into this. So this FearX one, I think for me that's the big no coming into it. If anything, like I would be very impressed if they managed to make that same run back.
I'm actually shocked that T1's only 50%, because I'm with you. I think T1's the clear second best. And I don't care that they lost to FearX. I think there's mad value in this T1. 50% now, I think they're going to get. Remember, all they have to do is finish top two, and then they have to win the split. And then similarly, I actually also think over in the LPL, Anyone's Legends 49%. Bro, how is Weibo 46%? What? Like, Weibo win, and a Weibo win has to be unpacked after the fact. You can never know going in what the fuck's going to happen. Like, I think Anyone's Legend and T1 are a steal. I think the value's crazy for them. They just have to be top two. I think that they both don't fuck up this time, and they just get there as expected for MSI. What do you want?
I wanted to add as well, like the JDG one, considering they made second place.
Everyone's out on them, yeah.
And like they made second place and beat their competition in Weibo
and in the upper bracket, they had a 5-game series against BLG, and they were pretty legit.
They have way lower odds here, like way lower chances. 26% is crazy. Like, might log in right now.
They didn't even do anything that crazy. They just lost to Gen.G and BLG. What they just did. They held serves. That's what's supposed to happen. Why are we hating now? I know. Okay, I'll tell you what though. I've got one last thing before we move on a little bit. We'll talk about the final. Since obviously we know, spoiler, G2 didn't win and it was kind of a crap final for G2, and aside from like the first game, basically, it wasn't that great a series. There's actually a thing, I'm going to paste it in here, that wait a second, let me just find it a second. 1 second. Yeah, got it right. If you want to show it on screen, you can. If don't worry, but I'm going to read this out. There was quite a cool thing that I saw that was made as a comment on the Hupu, the Chinese thing where you rate the players. Someone wrote a little story. I thought everyone would find this quite cool, so I'm going to read it out. If you love narrative shit, it's baller. Because essentially what I need to frame for people is, everyone doesn't realize that thing that Monty said years ago is true. You can't totally trust that Koreans and Chinese top players are just telling you the truth about what they think. Because when they're doing interviews in English or with Western outlets, they're very aware of two things, Yamato. One, they want to be polite, except for the ones that have learned, like we kind of like Conor McGregor trash talk too. Aside from that, Koreans especially want to be very polite. They don't want to be seen as being rude. They don't want to do what we would all do. Like, if the joke is, even though actually Brazil's good now, back in the day when someone like Brazil was crap at a wild card, we'd be like, lol, they're going to get shit stomped by the EU teams. LCK players don't do that generally. They'll be like, it'll be a good game, and I actually respect Reckless and Caps and Soaz, and they would have the Yankos. They would certain players they respect. But I actually know most of them don't watch Western regions, and most of them don't know most of the players. Like, the point is, they do know Forgiven, Reckless, Doublelift, Jensen, Björk. They know like a handful that were really good at any one time, but they probably couldn't tell you all 5 players on like KC this split, for example, because they didn't come to the national tournament. So what's cool is this Hupu comment shows that if you're a Chinese fan who doesn't get super deep into the Western regions, you actually look at Caps like how we all look at Maple from fucking PSG Talent or whatever. Listen to this story. I'll read it out. It's a little bit long, but it's cool. Just listen to this. So the story goes, It's about Caps. It's after he lost, it says, he truly gave it his all. My favourite non-LPL player and absolutely well-deserved for the Hall of Fame. Joking aside, for the LPL, Caps really did his utmost. In Season 8, he led his team to the finals, paving the way for the LPL to lift its historic first championship. In Season 9, he first defeated Damwon and then took down the invincible Demon King in a BO5, helping the LPL secure back-to-back titles. Even in the later stages of his career, he could still eliminate 2 LCK seeded teams. For a region like Europe, to produce a player of this caliber is a legend in itself. To dominate the domestic league year after year while consistently delivering highlight performances on the highest stage at Worlds, that is already greatness enough. I feel that failing to win a World Championship was never Caps' fault, but rather a reflection of the gap in overall strength of the entire LEC region. Yet, it is precisely because Caps exists that European fans have always believed they have a chance to challenge for the ultimate honour. I witnessed your high spirits when you took down SKT twice in Season 9, and I also saw your helplessness after losing in the finals. What moved me the most back then was that even after losing the most crucial match, when the camera panned to the crowd, Caps' father was still raising his arms, cheering for him, visibly proud. At that moment, winning or losing didn't seem so important anymore. You had already given everything, leaving with no regrets on the stage. In his father's eyes, Caps was never a player who failed to win the championship. He was just a kid who tried his absolute best, bravely pursuing his dreams. Through peaks and valleys, victories and crushing defeats, family is always the firmest backing. Only family knows truly how hard you have worked. People always joke about Western teams being scrubs, but Caps has used his entire career to prove that success is not impossible for them. As long as you hold on to faith and fight to the very end, the championship spirit of a region will never fade. Respect, the eternal banner and soul of the LEC, a true hero and a truly deserving Hall of Fame player. By the way, I hope people understand culturally why they made such an emphasis on the thing with his father supporting him even when he got swept in the finals. Because remember, one of the things about like the sort of tiger mom culture in Asia where they drive you really hard is they will treat you like you're a failure if you don't succeed. And so it's actually kind of shocking to these guys actually that like he's still embraced. But I thought this was actually, bro, that was beautiful. The way that was written was really sincere. What do you think?
Oh, really, really makes you think, you know? It's like the concept of an LEC or a EU without Caps.
Oh, imagine that world. That's dystopia, bro. It'd be dark, wouldn't it?
It was like Perks was up there, but the international tournaments, it's like the World Championships, is like especially the first round was not good. The first MSI wasn't good. The second round, I feel like he was held back by his team. Like he was trying so hard in that 2017 group with his Rise and so forth. But in terms of the international impact, it came with Caps. It came with Caps, and Perks had the greatness to see it because there's no other player where Perks.
What? Yeah.
There's no other player where we get Perks ADC as
No
well.
way.
So it's like the European success is synonymous with Caps, and if it wasn't for this guy, I don't know where we would be as a region, honestly.
No, by the way, you even make a more valid point too. It's not even just Caps, bro. It's the fact that like Carlos and Perks had the vision to get this guy in the G2 and then surround him with super teams over and over and over and over and over again. Like that's actually one of the best things that ever happened in European League. If he'd have stayed up for that, who knows? Maybe they have up and down years. Maybe one year they pick the wrong player like they've done here. It's also the fact he got to the right org and then the org has honoured him and continually stocked him with talent around him. Like that's actually, it is actually low key. I can see from their eyes how cool that is. It's, like I said, it kind of is like when we all look at Maple and we're like, he's the one guy in your region that can compete. If you give him the right team, maybe he can get you the win. Like it's kind of cool because as they say there, look, the reality is what they said at the end. They all do treat you LEC like we're bombs and we're just fucking also rans and we're just here to get knocked out before the playoffs or whatever. And we're all going to get hyped off a BO1 even though it's not a real series win. Like, I thought this was beautiful. Like that, the fact that I was a fan that wrote that, man, that would actually be worthy on like an esports fucking website, like ESPN back in the day when they wrote massive articles. I thought that was dope. So I thought I'd just read it out here because it's a random tweet on Twitter from a small account that was from like a hoop comment that no one's ever going to see otherwise. Like, okay, listen, I think I did a pretty good job there. That was like a solid hour of great things about all the awesome performances, about SkewMond gapping fucking Canyon. Problem now is this, Yamato. We watch the LPL, so we know BLG is good. Do you know what's sad? I'm not even trolling at all. This isn't some like trying to be cool. I actually was really scared this was going to happen, Yamato. That after they beat the two Korean teams, who remember, like them or dislike them, one thing about Koreans is they do play a mildly predictable style of League of Legends. The problem I always thought in this final, Yamato, is I actually did bet on BLG and I thought BLG was going to win. And the reason why is obvious. Because, bro, there is none of that stuff with BLG. They just fight you. That's who they are. And at this tournament, mate, I'll tell you one thing that it was not at present in the LPL. I saw flashes in the LPL of Bin. This guy forgot it's fearless or something, mate. We got 2024 Bin. He's back. This was fucking unbelievable. I don't even blame Broken Blade. No one could have stood against this guy at this tournament. He was smurfing. Like my boy Knight was good, but he didn't even need to be the best. Like Pin was just shitting down everyone's throats. The Jax was, this was fucking. If you're a BLG and an LPL fan, this is why when they lose to the LCK, you want to go. Don't write them off though, because you saw here they worked G2, mate. This is impressive.
You know, on the topic of just like definitely like Ben showcased what he can do, like in the finals. I think that was the big first time this year we got to see him, like what he did to Xiaoxu. Was like, damn, this is a classic Ben. You just put him in the skill matchup, and he got to showcase how good he is just individually. Like that's what the game is now for top lane. That's why I was so disappointed for the longest time. Because this is supposed to be the year where, of course, I always mention them together, but this is the year where Zeus and Bin should absolutely dominate. And it felt amazing to see that happen with Bin in particular. You got to see all of his classics. You got to see his Jax. You got to see his Gwen. You got to see his Camille. Like that's the trinity of Bin. And if he's in a state of mind and also in a meta where he can play that, and he is performing at this level, perfect. This is how you have to play if you want to be as cocky as you are, Ben. So the finals MVP, 100% deserved. But I think at the same time, if I just look at the entire tournament, I think that the performance of Shun was just ungodly. Unbelievable how good he was. Because the main thing for me, what made Shun stand out and was so different in comparison to the other junglers, I always said that he was very offbeat in the way he played the game. He found gank angles nobody else looked for or found, and his way, like we praise SkewMond so much, and Shun put SkewMond in the dirt. Shun was so insane this entire tournament, and I feel like Bilibili really tapped into the most important aspect of the current meta. This is something that G2 did too, but I think that Bilibili just have stronger individual players. Because in the end, how you tied the game together with your jungle and support and how you dominate the early game through map movement, and then how you play in the isolated lane with Bin. Like the only two players that performed better than SkewMond and Labrov at this tournament were exactly Shun and On. They had such a depth in their champion pool, and in these games, it didn't really feel like G2 could get into the games, because this entire tournament we had 3-0s after 3-0s after 3-0s, because the game is insanely snowballing. It's like you win the early game with your jungle and support movement, and then you just make sure that you show up for the objectives, because progressing the game is very difficult through other means, because you can't really brute force the tier 2s. But for me, I feel like Bilibili tapped into that same idea of the meta, the same concept in terms of how important it is to enable your support to move on the map, which is, you can clearly see with the champion choices like the Shen support. The idea is to find map impact. You are strong in the level 1, 2, 3, which is all you need for support in most cases, and then you just want to impact the map. But at the same time, those drafts that they did where you need to guarantee yourself a top lane carry, that's also one of those things that not a lot of top laners can do, where they can blind pick something and then, of course, dominate in the 1v1, because otherwise your Shen Galio comp is not going to work unless you have a Bin in the top lane that is willing to carry. So collectively, the fact that BLG really found a clear identity beyond just individual skill, I think that was like the story of their progression, because we knew all along they are individually damn insane, but now that Shun and On, like how they work together is really tapped in. And in a similar way, where there's almost relief that Knight arguably was like together with like the weakest performer on the team at this tournament, that is also like a relief, because in general this tournament was quite weak for mid lane in terms of the impact they have. You could see it in the patch notes. If Talia and Azir are out of the pool and you're in a position where Orianna and Ryze are permabanned, that's the top 4 mid laners that have been played the entire year. So in terms of impact that you can find, you can pick Ahri in a bad matchup and maybe find a mel angle, but as mid laners, you don't have a lot of say in the game. And I think this tournament really, really showcased that. And just to bring back to the point that I was trying to make, is just Knight, for the longest time, especially last year, he's the one that had to carry Billy when everyone else was fucking around. So him having like a chill tournament and winning it in the end with everyone else performing out of their mind must also feel fantastic.
Plus the whole bin and on angle, where both of them have had times in the last year and in recent memory where they've had off games internationally, they've been clowned on, they never look like their old self. Bro, if they're going to play at this level, then all of a sudden, especially because Gen.G showed weakness, the joke is BLG's the one on for the Golden Road now. Like, it's possible they can win MSI and Worlds. Like, they have the players to do it. I agree with you on the Jun point. I want to talk about that a little bit. Here's the thing, Yamato. Before the G2 series and afterwards, when people asked me on my stream, I was like, look, I think SkewMond's mega too. I'm a SkewMond glazer, but I think Jun might be the best jungler in the world. Now, here's where I want to make a distinction, though. I actually also think this meta is amazing for him, bro. Like, as you said, the style of how you set the game up through early jungle. Because here's the area where I'm sorry, if you want to talk about every aspect of jungle, yeah, I actually probably would say SkewMond seems like a smarter jungler, better like seeing the map, etc. I think Tarzan's the ultimate jungler for me, he does everything. Owner's like got his own style, obviously he pairs with Faker. But I'll tell you where Jun is unique, bro. Holy fuck is this guy good early game and with his hands. Like this guy, it's actually what I even love about the old school junglers, like the fucking, if you remember back in the day, Loveling, Allen, like they have that style where it's like, oh, my style is I'm just going to go and fuck you up early game, other jungler. Then at that point in time, it's like that Mike Tyson thing. Everyone has I'll make the Mike Tyson analogy in jungle. Everyone has the plan for pathing until they get punched in the face. Like that's fucking Mike Tyson's jungling school. Mate, if you were SkewMond, I feel so bad for you in this final. Because remember what we just said about Gen.G? Normally Canyon has the 2 solo laners. Yeah, so did Shun here. Shun had the power solo laners that are going to be ahead. And then he also is just fucking your world up early if you're SkewMond. You can never get into the game. You can never get any brilliant pathing off and help someone out. You're handcuffed before you can even go. Like, mate, Shun's, if you love power jungling, like just ballsy jungling, duelist jungling, this guy's a stud. I love it's why I told you the whole of last year. I'm glad it happened, but I was on some, why don't they just get him back? Just get him back. You see him in JDG, just get the guy back. Like, we can solve this rotating door because we have the guy who works. And if you can have Bin be good as well, good luck dealing with Jun at MSI and Worlds, boys. This guy's going to run over everyone.
I was just that game in particular where he played Pantheon into SkewMond's Dr. Mundo, where he found the engage angle, won the 50-50 on the red smite, and then pushed out bot lane, dove them, and then straight off the bat, like he made the trade with SkewMond, he has only one option, and that's to trade into his camps, instantly reads it as, I need to contest enemy golems no matter what, because if you win them, SkewMond doesn't get 6. Just the structure of the game, it's so easy to see what his vision is. And then at the same time, the execution was always on point. There was like, I can remember like one mistake, which is arguably not even a mistake, where he like Poppy flash ease and Hansama just reacts flash on the Nash in the game 1 where they lost. But that is like, is that a mistake? No, it's like it's a play that you go for to try to win the game. Because Shun, it was very, very hard to pinpoint like a flaw in the way he played. It's very sad to me that we don't have like tournament MVPs, because the finals MVP doesn't tell the whole story. Because it's like this is one of those where I would love to see Shun just walk away with an MVP of the tournament trophy.
You remember the most famous one? The most famous one is the EDG 2021 one. They gave it to Scout because of the final, but it should have been JJ. JJ just actually pulled off miracle. Every jungler he faced, he just outjoined, including Canyon. Like, I agree with you. Shun low-key probably did deserve it for this tournament. Like, it's epic what he did.
It's just brilliant. I was like, on the topic of like Golden Road, definitely I can see it. It's like, I think I was always flaming like BLG in terms of where their coaching staff direction is because of what Billy is. But in the end, it's like, I think the entire time I should have looked at what the nameplate was, and that's Danny. You know, like if there's one guy, if there's one guy that can like hang out, with very, very talented, like super talented egomaniacs because I feel like he's one of them, you know. So he just like hangs out in those conversations and stays in the pocket and can be in that pocket. And the fact that they find cohesion and they have game direction, I have to give props to the coaching side too. It's like Danny might just be the guy that has managed to find a way to solve it, because it's not as simple as, oh, they're just taking fight. It's like there is a clear idea in what they are doing, and they're doing it like as a collective all the time. It's like this is a punching hand with all five fingers just clinched together. Across the board, it's like still. Billy should be happy that they got away with not that we didn't get to see that Gen.G BLG series. I would have loved to see it, but I can't take for granted that's going to be like a sweep in the same form, because definitely Gen.G underperformed and G2 exploited a lot of things. And if we do like simple math, Billy should win. But I would be very, very intrigued to see what the odds would be on a match like that if Billy played against Gen.G tomorrow, because I can't like say 100% with conviction Billy is gonna win 100%. I feel like that would be like a very, very interesting series, because now Gen.G of course have time to digest it, but with what G2 did, like as a final point in terms of everything, I feel like they have saved the world, like the world of League of Legends esports in a way where every matchup suddenly becomes exciting again.
Well, the hype for MSI is nuts now, bro. It's going to be really, really big. Yeah, absolutely. Because think about it. Normally, you'd think MSI, all BO5s as well. Well, how can you really believe you have a chat? Mate, if you get drawn now, because think about those teams that would do, well, because we didn't see anyone's Legend or T1, people will actually think G2 has a chance. And maybe they do. If they're going to play this, maybe they do, Brit.
Because like as much as we love Gen.G when they play at their best, them winning is probably like the least interesting thing for the average viewer.
True.
It's like the least interesting thing. People want to see them lose. That is like super interesting. And they want to see, like, especially the LPL fans, they want to live in a world where the LPL can win. Because
also, if you notice, they were giving credit again to G2. Like, thanks for locking out the LCK teams. It's like, fuck off. Even that's what they mean. It's like bullshit. Like, the true caps is low key the carry of LPL. There you go.
Yeah, 100%. Bro,
he's won him 3 trophies. I know. He's won him 3 trophies, bro.
Yeah, bro.
I love it. Stupid as fuck, but whatever.
It would have been fun, like in a different timeline where IG smoked TL. Like maybe it would have been like just a repeat, because G2 couldn't touch IG in that group stage when we watched it in the same tournament. So it could have happened again. But Team Liquid, I guess NA gives us trophies,
Exactly. That's why people, even though we all laugh at TL for losing that record-breaking final, bro, we should be thanking them. That could have been fucking IG with like Rookie and Chai. Like, all right, you ready for round 2, are you, mate? Like, fucking hell. Yeah, I'm glad that happened. That's what allowed that win, bro. Absolutely. Okay, here's the thing though. If you are a fan of the LCK, you didn't want to hear any of that. Well, the beauty is you can choose with Raycon what you do listen to, because actually this message sponsored by Raycon. They obviously have the special open earbuds ones where what happens is their normal earbud goes in your ear and then you choose pressing a button if you want to activate the ability to let ambient sound. These ones sit just outside your ear canal so you can hear the music perfectly and hear a podcast, me and Yamato and me with the fucking wig on going, hey, yo, boomer guy. Like, you can hear all that crystal clear, but you can also hear, someone in the gym like, hey, you finished with that set there, bro? Or you can hear the person like, beep, 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 dring, dring, someone coming on a bike instead of going straight in the side of your head. You can listen in the background if the kettle's on. Very British angle there, but whatever. Other people drink tea in China too. Ni hao. Anyway, you can also fucking do it all, mate. You can listen to your mom when she goes, dinner, I'm not going to tell you what more. Pause that game. You're like, Mom, I'm in the promos game. Pause it and come for your dinner now. You can hear her shouting that. At least you'll be able to say, yeah, I'm coming now. I'm on the stairs. Guys, we've got to get this parent. Whatever it takes. The point is Raycon's there for you. And they have all the other awesome features, don't they? Like, they have 3 million customers. If you don't like them, they've sold so many. They're like, you know what? You got 30 days to figure it out. If you don't like them, send them back after that. I think you're going to like them. I think that's why that guarantee makes sense. Also, they're cheaper price point wise against other phones of similar quality. Also, they're pretty good quality for the actual price point in that sense. And the way this new design on the open one is, they're going to fit basically everyone's type of ear. It's not for one type of ear. It can rotate in a way where it'll fit your ear, whether you're like a tiny little fucking mouse or some big fucking a giant mouse with even bigger, the mice just have big ears, so it was a bad analogy on that one. Whatever, if you're Gollum or you're fucking Gandalf, the point is, I know, we're back Narnia, Lord of the Rings. The point is, wherever you live, if you're the Hound in Westeros or you're little Arya Stark going off to see the Faceless Men and become an assassin, the point is, if in your world they had the technology of Raycon, you'd be able to enjoy these open earbuds. That's really what I was trying to say in the end. And so, also, they have 36 hours of battery life, which is about the time it takes G2 to clap 2 Korean teams and then get their shit pushed in by some LPL. Actually, it's more than 40 hours, but whatever. Anyway, the point is the essential open earbuds are perfect for refreshing your routine this spring. Go to buyraycon.com/LFN Open, all one word, to get 20% off. Thank you to Raycon for sponsoring this segment. Okay, now...
I just had the image of young Thorin, growing up playing Quake, age of 12, having his mom screaming at him. He didn't have Raycon earbuds, he didn't hear, and then he got smacked or something. The keep stop ringing, Duncan.
I used to have the big closed back headphones on. I'd be in the game. I'm the reason they made the World Cyber Games thing. I was beyond the game. I was in the Matrix reading the fucking code, mate. And then I'd be like playing like this, and then it's like the vaudeville crook came in and like yanked me out like fucking. I go, I'm in the middle of the game. They'd be like, get downstairs now, need that fucking venture. And they'd be all broccoli there and shit. Suffering. If I'd had that open, I could have quickly come in. All right, Mum. Yep. Just finished my homework there. Oh, I'll be down in a second. Yeah, I tell you what. 2 minutes. I'm just going to send an email to the teacher. Email? What's that? Shut up. Anyway, the point is, Raycon's here for you, whether you know what email is or not. So anyway, right now, one thing we have to talk about is obviously a bunch of the regions are starting up again. Yamato. We just talked about G2. Well, good news is, they're back this weekend, mate. They're going to be back in the LEC. And if people don't know, LEC is a different format this time around because now, obviously, Yamato has to get only the one that he's allowed to play BO1s. Now it's BO3s all the time, bro. It's the round robin, but with 10 teams this time, and it's all BO3s in the first round. So, coming back, the obvious question is this, Yamato. We've seen before, sometimes teams go international, but then their form domestically is not as good. Is G2 going to return the triumphant finalists like this who clap Gen.G, and are they going to run the LEC? Now it's BO3. Are they going to be in peak form?
I think they will, but eventually. I wouldn't be surprised if they drop a series or two to a couple of teams here and there, but I expect a ramp up. I think the key difference, right, if we compare it to last year, KC had also an amazing first stand by their standard. They made, of course, made it all the way, amazing. They did a fantastic job. But then they had, of course, a massive dip because in the end, I don't think that the biggest difference here is that G2 is now a roster that's worked together for a very long time. They also have a wealth of experience. The team DNA runs very, very deep in terms of how they structure things and work things around. This is a team that is landing, back in Europe after playing with the core of this roster, their 10th international. I imagine that they're going to continue their dominance. I think a lot of the things that they did here at this tournament are going to be ideas that are going to be very easy to replicate when it comes to any games, really, because it's just on a foundation very, very sound. Maybe they'll have a slow start because definitely we saw some mumblings in terms of interviews, in terms of managing burnout and the importance of the regular split. We saw BLG do the same thing, right? It's they kind of fucked around in the best of threes and it's best of fives now, and then they just smash everybody. Oh, this series went to 5 games, kind of iffy, but double elimination, so who really cares? If there's an element of safety that you can always tap into and lean into that skill, I imagine that G2 is just going to smoke the LEC for the entire year. I feel like there's nothing that we've seen from other teams that can top what we've seen from G2, barring some kind of a collapse, especially now where they managed to do it with only SkewMond and Caps performing. How does a final against KC look like if Labrov and Hansama and, of course, Broken Blade perform as good as they did at this international? And I don't see a world why that shouldn't continue based on experience alone. So I think G2 is just going to smoke everybody.
I mean, I'll give you 2 angles that, again, show a theme that we've talked about this year, which is how amazing is this coaching staff at just rolling with the punches and then preparing their team and peaking. So in the BO1s in LEC versus, This team almost had a negative record. They almost actually got bounced out of playoffs. Imagine pausing there and going, right, everyone gather round. Believe it or not, in about a month, they actually beat Gen.G in a 3-0 and go second at first stand. You'd be like, no way. Even at first stand.
The jacket just flies in instantly and you just get sent.
Yeah. No, the straight jacket comes in like your Doctor Strange, mate. It just finds you. Like, you're trying to run from it and everything. It locks onto you. And then, you're just in fucking Delulu land, aren't you? Similarly, at first stand itself, if right after that BLG series, I go, don't worry, by the way, guys, they 6-0 the two Korean teams, absolutely shit down their throats. And basically, like, just too easy for a minute. Like, Hans Armas just clapping Diablo and Ruler, no problem. You'd also be like, calling that straight, it's coming back again. No! Like,
what's not again?
I know. Not again. So, mate, it's nuts, innit? It's nuts. Exactly, yeah. Listen, I'll tell you what, that actually, obviously, I can't even remember sadly what the name of it was then. What was that called? In Lord of the Rings, when Gandalf's, what was it called? Like Old Toby's, like, weed or something. It was implied. Here's the thing, it looked like it was weed, but I can tell you, if you've actually read Lord of the Rings, it was supposed to be tobacco. I think it's even called tobacchino or something in the world a lot. But they made it look in the movies that it was weed. Like, it was like it's fucking cheap.
He looked way too happy, you know? Like...
Oh, he did, didn't he? And then there was pipe weed, that was it. And then remember, there was the thing where Merry and Pippin got into his stash with like little fucking barrels of that shit. Like, by the way, you're buying it by the barrel. Yeah, listen, we've all had a crazy summer before. I know, fucking hell, calm down, lads. Spring break with fucking hobbits. What are we doing? It's out of control, isn't it? Anyway, so the point is, bringing it back, that is already outrageous. Like, this coaching stuff is just goated, bro. It's just unreal how they do it. Like, I'd even say, like, as one last thing on first stand, how did they keep people, like, level after the 2-0s? Like, normally that's where I'm just waiting for you to give a game away for free in the third game. Then in the fourth game, it's a close one and they win a barrel flip on the Korean side. And then by the time you get to game 5, it's squeaky bum time again. Now you've lost all your advantage. And how many times in history, by the way, has someone gotten up a game on a Korean team and then they just come back and you lose, and at the end you're like, shit, I wish I could have that one back. The joke is, you have no regrets at all if you're G2. Even though I thought it was baller when SkewMond did the tweet where he almost like apologized for the finals. It's like, bro, you did enough. You did enough, mate. Like, it's cool because it makes me actually think you really do think you are goated. Like, you actually think you can just be the best jungler in the world, which is awesome. Because again, beyond Jankos and Diamond Prox, whoever really believed that, like, even Inspired doesn't actually think he can be the best jungler in the world because he understands logically why the Koreans should beat him. Like, I think that's kind of cool. Anyway, the one angle on LEC for me is this. Here's where, though, Yamato, coaches actually can have mad influence on their teams, though, because I think one of the jobs of a coach in the modern day is to mentally help frame a match and a season for your team so that you know where you're. So I'll tell you what I'm doing right now, if I'm Reaper, the coach of Carmine Corp, I'm going the other way, Yamato. Instead of going, oh, fuck, after they did that, I'm going to go, boys, we almost beat that team. We were right there with them. And if they hadn't made one clutch play, we'd be the LEC. That'd have been us at MSI at first stand. So I'd tell them that. I'd be like, boys, if that, maybe we're better than we thought we are. Maybe we lost and we thought, fuck. Maybe actually we're like, look, this is bullshit, but maybe we're like the 4th best team in the world. You do some shit like that, you know. You fully psy-op everyone in the team. You brainwash them all. What do you think? Because Carmine Corp's obviously the main threat that we're looking for here.
No, like I think definitely if there's a clear favorite that you need to beat, I think the narrative that you need to build in a team is always like very, very important. It's like how you set the idea of what you're approaching. Like the examples I always go to where I had to do that with my team is like after we came into the World Championship 2018, and RNG was the clear favorite to just win it all because of MSI, LPL. Like, they just looked like a giga favorite. I heard from the other LEC teams too, like Youngbook is telling me, it's like RNG are just blasting us. It's like, it's impossible. We can't play the game. Yes. That's what I'm being told. And after the first game, is like I knew that in the game we were playing defeated. And I had to spin this to the players where, as I reviewed the game, I said, basically, when I reviewed a play, there was like 4 very important moments of the game that I structured the review around. And then it was like, the way I saw it was like, guys, look, if you played this better, then suddenly this game looks completely different, and then you can do this, and then you can win the game. So it's like the distance is this small. That's what I always told them. The distance is this small. And that's like I review the next one. It's like, imagine you just find this angle here, Jizuke, and then suddenly we get the Nash, and the game turns on its head. The distance is this fucking small. And then in the end, like the main thing that I wanted them to believe is that the distance is like non-existent, and we just need to be in the game to play the game, and that they make mistakes too. Because that was my other angle too. It's like, look, we didn't take this opportunity. We didn't take this opportunity. We didn't take this opportunity. Imagine you did. Imagine you did. That's the seed I wanted to plant. And then it's like, as we go onto the stage, I talked to the guys about odds. That was like my speech. I'll say, guys, the odds of you being born, non-existent. You want to race against millions. The odds of you being good at League of Legends, bro, you could have been one of those silvers. That's the majority of the play base. The odds of you being here in this moment, non-existent. So you're going to be upset about some odds that someone has said about this match? That's impossible. And then it's like, I just wanted to put them in a frame of mind that they can win. That was like the most important thing. And then the story to just zoom out and looking at that 2018 as a whole, it's like, I pushed them really hard by making Fnatic our biggest internal enemy. Because Fnatic was the team for us to beat 2018. And to bring it back to KC, now with G2, it's like, you have an enemy. It's so easy to rally around a very, very clear enemy, because you can internalize what you need to do and then externalize your frustration towards something and always draw motivation from something. Because it's very easy to say, it's like, oh, we're doing like this, bro, we'll never fucking beat these guys if we fucking do this shit. Get your shit together. We need to push. And then with that same idea that you had in mind, it's like the way you spin the narrative and that you frame it in your mind is that it was this close. It was this close. We could have been the guys. Why wouldn't it be us that did the same journey on LCK? And maybe for someone that is on the outside might think, yeah, you would never do that shit. I might say you might never do that shit that G2 just did. But what you believe in, the story within the team, is super, super important. So I'm right behind you. It's like the framing of things is so damn important, because you need to be ready to win any game. There's no way in hell KT, as they played against Gen.G at the World Championship, they didn't say, we beat them once, we're going to fucking do it again. There's no way those words were not uttered. They must have been uttered.
Yeah. No, if people don't know, it's even actually the most famous thing ever. That, and they say in sports, the greatest upset ever is called the Miracle on Ice, which was like an Olympics in the 80s. It's back when I think the premise was in America. It's why you didn't have the Dream Team yet in basketball. You weren't allowed back then to have professionals play. So on the American team, I believe it's that they didn't have like all top pros from the NHL. They had like amateur players or like college players. And famously, they beat the Soviet like Red Army team, which if people don't know, is considered like the greatest international hockey team ever. Like they used to just win every Olympics, everything. And famously, supposedly what they said, this is why they made a movie out of it. The speech the guy made, you would love me if you don't know it already. Essentially, the gist he said was this. I'll read it out. It's a very quick speech. He said, great moments are born from great opportunity. And that's what you have here tonight, boys. That's what you've earned here tonight. One game. If we played them 10 times, they might win 9. But his point, that's genius there is. Notice how he basically just said they would beat us 9 out of 10 times. But his point is, as long as this is the one, who gives a shit? Like, it doesn't matter that they're better. It's about knowing that like, you can still win this game even if they're better. I think that's fucking baller. But that's why I say I think it's actually key, especially after you've seen this. You can't get down on yourself if you're the other teams. You have to think, actually, that's the measuring stick that if we measure up to. Now, maybe if I'm KC, here's also why we don't even have to beat them. If we can also play them close again, and then we go to MSI, maybe we can do the shit they did. Maybe we can beat a FearX, or maybe if we'd have played Gen.G, we could beat them. Just that possible. In a weird way, you can use G2 to big yourself up for the future, like, because we've played against them, we've had close games, and we've beaten them.
Oh, definitely. And then to zoom out from the other perspective, in the eras where we had a very, very strong European team, the other teams were also strong. It's so much easier to get better within a region when there's a clear team to beat. Because thinking back to 2018, it was like us, Vitality, G2 at the World Championship, and then of course Fnatic. Like that was, if we just beat C9 in one of those games, we could have been together with Fnatic in the quarters, and then you have of course 2 European teams in the semis, and then 2019, of course, like that Fnatic roster took 1 game off of FPX, made it through the group stage. It's like, it has such a profound impact on a region when you have a very, very clear front challenge runner that teams need to beat. It's just so much easier to improve when that's the case. It's like the team that is leading your region has a profound impact on everybody else, and you can clearly see it when your number one team is weak. Usually the rest of the teams also just giga weak. Obviously it's self-explanatory, but I am excited for the impact that has on Europe, where you have a team that is so experienced and now you get to also compete against and learn from, which is going to be insanely nutritious to the other teams.
One other team that, if people remember, in the BO1s was good, and then they were all right in the playoffs, but they actually had hard run too, was obviously Heretics. And we didn't cover this before, but since they're going to have their upcoming match, we'll talk about it now. Heretics has chosen to replace Stend, the support. It was good last year, but admittedly this year, with Ice, it didn't look like it worked. I've got to say at this point in time, Flackhead just makes everyone work with him, mate. That guy just has a special quality where he can just seemingly communicate and synergize with anyone. So with Ice looked good, but I did think Sten was dodgy, right? Instead, Heretics have signed this player, Way, who, if people ever watched LCK, he's the guy who used to play for KT before they replaced him with Peter. So if you go back last year and before that, he used to be a Challengers player, then they had him in when KT was a bit rough, and then eventually Peter replaced him, and obviously Peter made it to the World's Final and top 3 in LCK and all this. The Way guy was all right. What are your thoughts on this move? I mean, look, it obviously makes an all-Korean bot lane for now, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think that the follow-up context is what makes it so interesting, right? That they are going to put like in summer, they're gonna unite the full bot lane of Misa, right? They're gonna bring in Hype and temporarily here.
It's implied that eventually Ice is going to do his military service or something, right?
Yeah. So they're just putting together a bot lane that has played together for a very, very long time. And I was saying even when we are with Los Atuanos, we were screaming Misa, and they were a team that was better than most LEC teams. Like, their bot lane was just so damn insane. Okay. You can see it in solo queue. You can also see it in the matches that they play. I thought that they were just really, really damn good, specifically their bot lane. So they match up against us very well because obviously we were a team that needed to stabilize bot lane, and we scaled into the game. So if the enemy bot lane was very good at pressuring you, then we would definitely we would tremble and collapse. So Misa was a very, very tough matchup for us. But that bot lane is like really, really good. I think that in terms of the short-term impact, I do think that Stand, even though he wasn't super accurate as a player, I think he did a lot to actually help the solo laners kind of like thrive in the game. But I do think that the new support now is much better as a laner. So I think that they can like qualify into games better, putting Ice into positions to carry. And I do think that was a part of the identity of Heretics already. So I think it fits very, very well. I think that they were carrying games through, of course, Misa. And the main question for me now is, Shio worked with Sten for a very long time. And I think always when we praise Heretics was, of course, how they dominated map as a jungle and support duo. And I always made the claim that if they had the Vitality AD and solo lanes, this team would actually be like really, really good. So it's like that separation is going to be interesting because Heretics might lose some of the things that made them cohesive. But they are bringing in a very, very experienced support. And I do think in the long term, this is something that makes sense. But I could see some short-term pain also coming through because you're separating a jungle support that has a lot of games under their belt too.
To be fair, I haven't watched them, but it is kind of cool that they have got the Jar Jar Binks team bot lane. You know, Team Misa. Misa Jar Jar Binks.
I don't even know the reference, bro.
You've got Phantom Menace. You've never seen the Phantom Menace.
I hate Star Wars, bro.
Listen,
I hate Star Wars.
Look that one up. That character's actually ass shit, but whatever. Listen, anyone who's old like me, it was a funny.
Okay, I know Jar Jar Binks. I know Jar Jar Binks, but
that's how he talks.
What's the reference?
Basically, he talks like Misa Jar Jar Binks. That's how he actually says it. He says it because that character was made to have sort of like a Jamaican patois or something weird like that, wasn't it? So it was actually, by the way, like quite a fucking. Put it this way, they wouldn't do a character like that in the modern day. I was a little bit on the edge that one. It was the reference seemed a little bit toward the nose, George. You know what I mean? Anyway, Jesus, I agree with you though. That's actually the problem with this move. I didn't think Sten played well, and I did think Ice ended up like Ice against the world sometimes in some of those games. But the problem is, you fixed one aspect. Like, I could see him, and actually when they get the proper Mesa bottling, I could see them both being really good. That's actually an interesting angle for LEC. It's what you said before, though. The problem is, the best player on their team is Shio, and this might actually sort of like handicap him a little bit or make it a bit harder for him. Because in theory, when you look at the rest of the squad, if you have a solid bottling, I already thought Tracer looked pretty good for a rookie, and actually Shio, I think, is mega. I think he's way better than this team. team. Look, Sarin as a mid laner is a bit whatever, and the problem is that you do need a good mid laner. So I don't know. It's hard to tell on Heretics. Part of me feels like they could get better and they could actually challenge and be like 4th or 5th best. I could also see them having teething problems in the first split, though. You know what I mean?
I feel like Heretics will be really good next year. That's my read. I think this roster, these players, they will be good next year. That's my take. Like, I think this, in terms of giving Trayson and Seren time, I think these are players that are gradually getting better. But I think that there's too many pieces around them, teams around them that have picked up too much momentum, right? I think that a lot of teams around them are in the end cycle of those projects, like a GX, for example, and I think that they have like too big of a kind of advantage in the short term. So I can understand from Misa's side, it's like in terms of building long term. Not Misa, but Heretics. I really feel like this project next year will be really good. That's my read, unless it will be like Scavenge and they will lose a lot of players. But I do think I can see the vision. Which is what makes me happy. As long as we have teams in the region where I can clearly see the vision, then it's really, really good. And I feel like, yeah, for the first time in a long time, LEC, we don't have any team where like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, get out of the league.
No, great. They already got those teams out. Whatever. Listen, you laid it up. You threw it up there. Of course, I'm going to 360 windmill that motherfucker. Anyway, it's all good.
Come on now.
Listen.
Now,
Anyway,
I'll throw it back at you. Where's Larson, huh? Your boy.
He's in that intro at the beginning there. You can see he's talking shit to the old timers. Yeah. Anyway, there's actually two teams that I think are in a really tricky spot for this split, and it's the perfect time to talk about their matchup via Polymarket. So in one of the first matches of LEC, it is on the 28th, which is Saturday, is Giant X, who actually I would say slightly underperformed in the playoffs. I thought they had a real chance to make a deeper run, and they had the squad. It was pretty good. They even started the split well and then went off the boil a bit. They're playing against Fnatic, who did the opposite. They were sort of like bullshitted their way through the BO1s, some would say, and then got to the playoffs and did absolutely fuck all. Right? This is on, according to the Polymarket traders, they do favour GX. Remember, it's a BO3, but they're at 58%, Fnatic at 42%, right? Who will win this matchup? And then we'll talk about both the teams. Where are you at on this matchup? Is this the right numbers?
I would say they are the right numbers, but I'm surprised that the right numbers have been found. Because it's like, I can't imagine if there was ever a point in time where Fnatic was considered the underdog against like a mid-table team. Yep. That to me is like, wow, that must be some historic shit right there. It's like, there's been periods where Fnatic like underperformed in a regular split, but they like everyone had their issues with Fnatic when they made top 3 and couldn't beat G2.
Complain that they came 2nd and 3rd.
Yeah.
We used to hate on them and be like, fuck these guys.
Yeah, like, oh, and now we're here. Like, it's the Vladi vision definitely hasn't paid off. I could see the angle of Vladi, but the fact that Vladi also got to choose what it seems like he got to choose. It's like their top lane is not better than Oscarinin. Like, it's plain and simple. It's not better than Oscarinin. Oscarinin had very high highs, very low lows, but with Empiros, you could see that he's not ready. He's just simply not ready. And even from watching LEC, like the ERLs and people talking about the ERLs that watch ERLs, they were saying that there's maybe 5 top laners better in the ERLs than Empiros. And I don't see the upside currently. And the same thing for LoLEsports. Like, that's a tough one. It's like Misa, the Misa support. If Fnatic could have contested for him, that would have been a massive difference maker. But Upset is not the type of player that is good to pair with a support that doesn't know how to play all the lane matchups. Because like Upset wants to be in the driving seat, he wants to be in an advantage, and he wants to take over games. That's his biggest strength. Upset is not the kind of player to create something out of nothing. He creates something massive out of something that is given to him by a support. Of course, that's why he had the most success with Hilly and Mickey X, of course, because he delivers in those positions. But with LoLEsports and Emperors there against their counterparts in, of course, Jun and Lot, and then the rest of the field too, I can clearly see the angle of GX being favorites. But I'm surprised the fact that the market reads it so well, because usually Fnatic has the extra boost because of history, but now they've lost the aura completely, as Larson would say.
No, this is how you can tell who's watched the games. Because if you didn't watch the previous split, your brain will see Fnatic and automatically think they must be elite. If you remember the games, they were atrocious. Like the joke is even some of the wins they had were semi-bullshit. I mean, even the win against your team, they tried their hardest to throw that, mate. They just kept fucking just tunneling on support picks. It was ridiculous, some of the shit they were doing. Like, I don't know what they were. But, and also, here's why this specific matchup, I think you can confidently say GX will win. Because GX's strongest point, especially regular season, is that bot lane. Bro, it's already way too many teams. Not through his own fault, but it just ends up being the last contingency left. Too many teams that upset players' fault become upset against the world. And even he does have to try and 1v9. But he's not even going to get into the game to do that if he's playing a strong bot lane. Like, so I don't know. I do feel like this is correct. I actually think they've nailed it. It is sort of a 60-40 matchup to the side of GX. So I would certainly take the GX side of this one. If I really thought Fnatic was better, I'd say there's mad value there. I don't think there is. I actually think they'll probably just lose this. Might even just lose 0-2 and start the split shit. Could be totally plausible to me. Well, I tell you what team that's maybe we can be more positive about, though, is I actually think one of the teams that gave a really good accounting for themselves the last split, but understandably a little bit of rookie inexperience cost them, is NAVI. I mean, who the fuck didn't enjoy watching them play, mate? They were a breath of fresh air to the LEC. They were playing awesome. Rylek was just like a fucking, wow, who's this guy? Like, I heard he was hyped, but this guy, he was doing like that Jean shit. I said, he was just battering everyone early and just getting you right in the game. Essentially, he made it so that you didn't have to worry about your rookies making bad late game decisions. We win the game by the mid game. He was doing awesome. So I want to this team to do the usual thing of like, you don't need to be the best again. Just take another step up. This time, let's see, challenge for the MSI spot. That would be what I'd say. Be on the outskirts of the second and third. I think it's doable, mate. I also think some of the other, like Mainta looked great. Like, this is actually a pretty interesting squad for me.
I think that's like Navi's journey will be underappreciated due to the simple factor that we have 3 insanely strong teams in the region, like contextualized to, of course, the competition. Because if Navi end up 4th against KOI, KC, and G2, that result in itself is a very, very good achievement. But as always, everything is written by, of course, the winners, because that's the type of team that I wish they get. Like, if there's a coaching staff of the year award, that's the team that should get it, because they are beating the field and they're doing it so early on. It's like we have the teams they would have to beat to get 4th already. It's like would be Vitality, would be GX, would be Fnatic, and to do that in what is pretty much your opening year, that's like fantastic. And I'm with you. I just want the journey to continue, because the pickup of the Rock, the fact that KCB last year had a very, very clear progression, had a very strong identity, beat Los Ratones, right? When it came to the EME Masters, the summer one, the track record so far of The Rock has been very, very positive. So I'm excited to see the progression of this squad, because I do think that they have a big upside. The main thing that will be tough to convert for them is that I do think this is a team that plays very, very recipe-based League of Legends. That can work, especially in best of threes. But when teams figure that out and they see your pattern, which happened in playoffs, is that they recognize that your top laner always plays in isolation. Give him Rumble, gank his Rumble, and he'll be ineffective. When they're picking the flex junglers, most of the time they want to slam them into the jungle to kind of secure a strong top lane tank for Maintal. And when teams begin to recognize these patterns, you need to be able to adapt and to expand. And then the question is, what is the ceiling of the newcomers to the region? It's like, will Mainter be able to play a carry style when he played a very tank-heavy style most of the time in his career in the ERLs? Will he be able to change beyond that? Rylek, he has expanded his pool already. I saw, it's like, as he was playing the Aatroxes and the Embessers and the Kianas on the stage, he was spamming like Zinzao, Vi, like all the classics in solo queue. So him, I'm not worried about. But in terms of what the ceiling will be, if they want to break through and somehow break into top 3, then I think it really, really comes down to the expansion of the individual players and what kind of depth they can offer, because that's going to be the challenge of Fearless.
And then for me, I skipped over them because I wanted to do some bad, some good. I'll tell you, if I was doing one of my shows, Hot Take Point Made, where I was like, no, that was Best Damn League Show, it was hot, good, bad, ugly category. I'll tell you what would go into ugly. It is MKOI. And here's why, Yamato. When they took remember, last season, they were a champion in spring. Then they took the gamble, stick with the same roster, no upgrades, no gambles, which implies to me you actually believe you can improve this roster. They basically said, we've told Merwin and Super, get your shit together, this is your last chance, but if you do, we'll stick together with the squad and we'll be loyal to you, right? Obviously, no one could know how good KC would be. But if you knew now that like G2 wins the split again, okay, that's cool. They were better than MKOI generally last year. They win the split. You can't have it that at MSI, it's KC and at G2 and you're sat at home again and you're just waiting for Worlds. It can't be that the whole year is never making an LEC final and then going to Worlds as the last seed. That wouldn't be success for a team that stays together for me and that builds on what they did last year. Because the problem is the win they had last year was really close. The margins were really tight. You had to have some people maybe underperform on other teams. You had like life games. Like, what do you think of MKOI? Because I do feel like they're in actually like a tough spot where I could just see them being third again. And unfortunately, third won't be enough for MSI.
I did think MKOI in particular in winter, I thought they would have a bigger upside in the short term. I thought that KC would need more time to catch up. And I thought they would be the ones right behind G2 due to them just having, of course, worked together for quite some time. Like the score has played together for such a long time. Yeah. And now where you have teams that have higher individual ceiling than yours, and they're already catching up to you strategically, what is going to be your upside? Because right now it's impossible to see a vision, barring, as you mentioned yourself, like massive underperformances from KC or G2 where they break it into top two, because I think KC and G2 are clear favorites. It's like we were talking about the market of who is going to go to MSI. Was MKOI even mentioned? They are there at I'm scrolling, but I don't see a percentage. So there you have it, I think it's going to be tough for them. Very, very tough for them.
And then I think another one that goes in the ugly category, it's got to be Vitality. Like, what's cool is, on the one hand, this is one of the first Vitality rosters ever with Humanoid now that did show a bit of potential. Like, they weren't just a team that could win the odd regular season. They looked good in the playoffs too at times. The issue is, we just ran it off. Bro, there's a very real world where 4-4-5 is what we're expecting from this team. I want more than that, Yamato. When I see the highs of what Humanoid can do, Kazi's still good. They actually showed me some all right Linkshas games now. Now I see why people want him in the LEC. I look at the roster, Nako is still one of the best players in the LEC. Like, I know it's sadly a dreaded word in the EU, but they are the potential team, bro. If they ever get that shit together, they can also be in this conversation with those big three that we were talking about. They can mix it up. Like, I don't think it's crazy to believe there could be a world where you can have a BO5 Vitality could win over MKOI. Why not? Seems plausible. Maybe if they play great at KC is in the targets too. What do you expect from Vitality, or what would they need to show more than they did last split?
I do think in terms of the like Vitality lose to themselves, and that's like I say that many times about different teams. It's like that's a very uncomfortable position to be in when you're facing them, because you're kind of hoping it's like, oh, are we going to just wait for the mistake? What if the mistake doesn't come? Then what? Then you're going to be losing to a Vitality that is very, very sharp in the early game. They have, of course, their early game aggression and their aggression in general is generating them leads. So it's not as easy as to say it's like, just calm down, Vitality, and you'll win more games, because the upside comes from the bad habits too. But if Vitality managed to find a way to figure that out, it would be very interesting. But I've seen versions of Vitality with this coaching staff, right, that haven't managed to figure that out, because there were moments where like Vitality has like, oh, look at the upside. It's like they can maybe do something, and then they didn't figure it out. Like, I am skeptical that they managed to piece it together. That's like my main concern. But I do think the fact that Humanoid is on the team, I think that he's a very smart player. If he is motivated to share and to get involved, especially, it's like Karzi is what Shun is to Bin to Humanoid. Like Kazi is just the perfect person to get the most out of Humanoid. And if they manage to piece together their mid to late game, I do think that in terms of the potential, like if someone's winning early game and winning lanes, that's a very difficult thing to teach. It's like, it just means that you have good individual players. Then you just need to figure out the cohesion and how you convert winning positions. And I think that's a very, very positive place to be. If they manage to be better than NAVI, if they manage to, like, if there's a world where NAVI play against MKOI and Vitality play against MKOI, I think the upset chance is higher from Vitality side than from Navi side, because Navi is a little bit too vanilla and standard in their approach in a very impressive way. but not in a way that is going to give you upset victories if you're playing like standard front to backs and you have play a very setup oriented game. While Vitality can be very sporadic and they're kind of like a southpaw in a league where everyone's punching with the right hand. So Vitality is definitely a very, very fun team to watch.
And for me, this is where the addition you've had that, like, think about this. Any other year, you'd never get a player like Humanoid in Vitality, bro. That's like years back when they used to build super teams and they had perks and they had millions of dollars. Back then, yeah, sure, that makes sense. The idea you get Humanoid, basically, as far as we can tell, because he was just sick of it in Fnatic and couldn't be bothered with the grind and always coming second and third. You've been given a gift there, mate. And as you saw, when he hits his highs, he's still Humanoid, mate. He can still smurf in a fucking mid lane. So I'm sorry, if you're playing, bro, it's even his older play. It's Poppy. I believe Humanoid could be a better mid laner than Poppy. So I also think if you get the rest of the team right, you can be in this mix for the world spot. I think MSI is probably a bridge too far. For the world spot, though, that third spot, you can be in that mix. You can be relevant and you can have a chance. And by the way, I'll give you Humanoid at Mad Props if you had the Mad Lions years and Splice into the flag. And now even afterwards, in Vitality, you go to Worlds. That would be epic. That's still kind of it's not the same as a championship, but it's like something for your legacy. It's something to show I wasn't just a guy who went on the Fnatic and then stole a bunch of checks and was second place a million times. Like, that is a player where you've got to always give it to the people. Like, listen, he probably will never be in a Hall of Fame. He's never quite that high, but he was only a lick below. He was still an extremely good player. Still one of our greats in Europe.
Just we are seeing real time Humanoid's departure, how it is aging, right? It's because if anything, what happened to Fnatic post Humanoid is a massive like plus for Humanoid too. I feel like the community never gives. It's like people are very, very quick to judge Fnatic for their faults, right? Because we get so much information out of Fnatic, like Grabs is talking in interviews, and people like misconstrue things and move things, and sometimes Gax also is talking too much, and it's looking like it's a hellfire. Sam Matthews tweeting something, like it's just too much information is leaking out of there, but. It's like people don't give that same grace to a player like Humanoid. Because it's like people talk about him like he's the worst bum ever, but in reality, he was just a player that couldn't win in the end in all of these finals. And if you also account for the faults of Fnatic as an org and the fact that he was there, sure, he was getting paid and all that jazz, and he had many, many reasons why he should try to perform. I can see why a player might not perform. Not to give him any excuses, but this is definitely a type of player that you can move to a different roster and boom, you can have a top 3 mid laner. So I'm with you. It was a massive steal for Vitality, and they had the right construction to make him happy. So I definitely think Vitality, they're going to keep that moniker, just the dark horse of the region.
Being right is actually its own reward because you get to feel all warm and tingly inside. But I know something all those peons don't. But enough about me every day. I wake up in the morning, another day of life. Thank you, God. Time to go and be right again versus all the people on the internet, those fools. But if with prize picks, if you're right,
this is an ad read.
You can cash in and get paid. Exactly. With prize picks, it's good to be right, Yamato. Because actually, do you want to make games more fun, a little bit more spicy, a little bit of a sweat when you're watching a match of some sort of professional sport? Well, on prize picks, it's easy, isn't it? You'll start getting into it more when you want to figure out how to be right next time. So it's easy to play. And when you do, it's also really easy to get extra value because as soon as you play your first $5 lineup, you will get $50 in lineups from prize picks with the code. I think it's summoning, right? Let me double check. Is it summoning? Yes, code summoning is the code. You will get $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today because it's really easy. All you do is you pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stats projections. So, for example, if it was like basketball, Steph Curry will get 4 3-pointers. Do you think he'll get more? Do you think he'll get less? Easy. If you don't like that one, you pick a different player. Whatever team you follow, whatever sport you follow, it's on there. They've got basketball, football, UFC, soccer, everything you can imagine pretty much is on there. Loads of different options also, and you can do different features like they have early payouts. If a player gets off to a hot start, you can actually just cash the winnings out before the game even ends. You can set up community aspects where you either copy other people's winning lineups or you use social aspects to share your lineup and show your friends and brag with each other or go head to head, etc. And you've got stuff like the withdrawals are fast and secure. They accept most major payment methods. Making a deposit is really easy, and you can just get get going, and in 30 seconds, you can make your picks. You can be enjoying it. And of course, if you download the Prize Picks app today and use code summoning, you will get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code summoning to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineups. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Okay. So here's the thing, because LCK starts next week on April 1st, actually, believe it or not, and then LCS starts on the weekend of next week. Let's just talk about the last couple of LEC teams, and then we'll do some Q&A. So there's a couple of teams we still haven't talked about, right? I saved one until now, Yamato, because if everyone was dunking on SK for last split, mate, their punishment must be more severe. They have 2 more splits to play, Yamato. Like, that one was elite. You could even argue on that one, by the way. I'll give you some copium. If I was going to do copium for SK, it'd be this. Well, I put together a totally new squad where aside from Mickey X and Wonder, they hadn't played together, and even then that was years ago. Plus, you've got things like the bot lane's a fresh bot lane, and then you're working with like a mid-jungle duo that don't know each other, you remember? And then, you know what, in the matches even, some of those BO1s they sort of threw and they were ahead in some of the game. The problem now is there are no weak teams in the league. There's only BO3s, and you've got the same roster. So get ready, because now we're going to see. If you're bad, you are going to be really bad. If you're actually any good, you've got a chance to redeem yourself. Where are you at on SK? Are you out on them, bro?
Oh, it's tough. You know,
because I can tell you what, you know, in low-key, you sort of want them to be good because of Mickey, right? And Wonder, you want them to have a chance to be relevant, right?
They were close to getting away with it, because they threw some games. I'm looking at the players. I think their AD is slowly getting better. I don't know if he's gonna keep up. I think that Mickey and Wunder, they had like flashes of brilliance that they can only offer to the game, like the flexes and Mickey with the engage angles and the Taric angles. There were many games that they just simply threw with 6-7K gold leads. They were very, very far ahead, and they couldn't convert. Which in most cases, I would say that's something to be comfortable with. But I also think that their wins came from unique draft angles that, especially in a BO1 format, should be your biggest edge. So I'm with you that 100% best of 3 is going to hit you even harder. Because the BO1s should have been your biggest advantage. The same way I said for us, LoLEsports, we were a very unique team. BO1s was very, very good for us that we played, because we could find these angles to beat a team like G2 or MKOI. When on paper they are much better than us, obviously. And with that being said, I think now it's just gonna get more difficult, because I do think that Leader and Skeens as players right now on an individual level, I think they are not keeping up with the rest of the league. And I think that the truth of that is going to be even more evident. I think Wunder and Mickey still fantastic players. Maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I was looking at those games and I saw the quality, and I think that they have it in them to compete with the best in the league. But for the rest of the squads, I think something is lacking there. And I thought that they were going to make roster changes. That's where I thought they were going to be at. I thought maybe they swap out the jungle. Maybe this is like between winter and spring is too difficult. Maybe that's too hard. Maybe that's something that happens between spring and summer, or maybe it doesn't happen at all because of contract reasons and you make commitments. But it's hard to get excited beyond that, because I do think the best of 3s, as you said yourself, is going to be so much harder.
Yeah, by the way, I am based as fuck. Like, I am just too smooth with it, as they say, Yamato. Like, you have to understand, when I'm on my deathbed, I'm in that lovely, comfy, big bed with all the satin pillows and the silk sheets. All my family, my little Thorin clan is around me. I'm like, gathering children. Before I die, I'd just like to say one thing. You know what? In life, I haven't always treasured everything. I'll look back on the old times. That's why if I were you, I'd get this new frame that you could put all your best things in 10% off of the quote. Go on, Thorin. And then just before I die, it was an ad. The whole time it was an ad. As I entered the afterlife, an ad on the way out. Greatest fucking PR they ever paid for. And then they're like, we'd love to re-up, but he's dead now. Like, yeah, well, you know what? Maybe I tell him in the afterlife I'll make savings. So you can haunt your relatives and tell them about great savings you can make on the new products that are available, whatever. It's easy to install. Uses Wi-Fi and the cloud. Yeah, whatever. I'm in the cloud now, bro. I'm letting you know about it with all the new offers. Anyway, that's why you buy the new phone. It could be. It could be. Nah, we've done all the ad reads for this on Yamato. It's all good. Now, if we want to switch over, though, I've left what I'll just say on the SK thing quickly. I actually do think they're not as written off as people think. Here's why. I still think if you have Wonder and Mickey X, listen, those two players have been too good for too long that they can still have at least individual games where they're really good still. That can still happen. My biggest problem for me is it is just that they didn't make a single roster move, Yamato. Like, I'm fine with Yopper. He's all right. Skins, I don't know if that's the right team for him, but he seems like an okay player. My biggest problem really is the leader one, and here's why. Because, bro, I actually think the way Mickey X played for leader, that split, where he just like, I joke that it's like they were a duo in solo queue, just perma-camp for mid all day long. Mate, if you drop a young, talented mid in that position, Mickey X could help him have a really good chance to be decent in the LEC. But instead, you just stick him with the leader angle. And look, if that works out, it'll be a crazy comeback angle. But as of right now, it's sort of cooked, isn't it? Like, I don't even know that Mickey X, I mean, he sort of said as much in interviews. I don't know that even he believes that can still work. He's just locked in for 2 more splits. Because that's the sad thing. It's not like the whole roster's shit. You could actually pivot quite. I think it's only one change. You'd have a half decent chance. You could at least challenge for mid-table. You know what I mean?
It's just, I don't know. Like, and at least, like, leader, you know, if you're going to be in the league, be yourself, man.
Yeah.
Why is the majority of your games Azir and Victor and Aurelion Sol?
Just slam
like,
that fucking
slam the Aurelia, man. Slam the Aurelia.
Pull up the cream VODs. I want Aurelia. I want fucking Akali. I want Zed. I want... Listen, even if they're not meta, bro, you aren't meta. Just do it. Just die. Yeah. It's like that fucking line in 300. I always thought it was baller, where the queen says to the king, like, come back with your shield or on it. What? Listen, she has expectations, homie. He's like, like, come home safe. She's like, come home with your shield or fucking on it, bitch. Like, that's what I think. If you're the melee, then play the melees, mate. Show me the counter matchups.
Yeah, just do it, man. Just do it. Don't conform. Like you're never gonna. Then just sub in Larson, you know. Bring him back, you know. Like just slam it, man.
If anything, that's what they should even do, Yamato. What they should do is dress Larson to look like leader. So you see him on stage, you're like, yeah, he's probably just going to pick a fucking major. What? He's knocking Oriana again? What's going on? And then suddenly he's just laying in normally CS. What? He's not even roaming. It's secret he was Larson the whole time. Also, the obvious joke here is if you could just merge Larson and leader with like some fucking StarCraft fucking Archon between the two mid, you'd actually have a sick mid laner, wouldn't you? It'd be pretty good. It'd be pretty fire. Yeah. The problem now is you've got a pair of legs separate to an upper half of a body. You need it all together, you fucking mad fucker. You can't just have one. A pair of legs isn't that great. How you eat food? Just top end. Well, disabled people probably don't like that joke, but whatever. It's just how it is, isn't it? Listen, you've got bigger problems than me making jokes on talk shows, mate. Good luck with your life.
Bro,
that's why the new commercial, Thorin's wheelchair, is, you know.
Get the questions in, we cut the break.
Right, by the way, there is one last team to talk about, though, and this is the team that has the worst PR in the league, bro. And they did it all to themselves. Remember, Shifters, when they made their new name... I
forgot about them existing.
Listen, you're going to remember it's going to be bad. Because before they even announced their team had come to the league, they already implicated themselves with the Epstein files. Then the league began. They had the game where, like, Ice was like, I did it for you, to like fucking, I can't remember the name of the player. They had that one where they were, who was the player?
113, no?
Yes, 113. They did that. I did it for you, like eliminated them. You had the whole thing where Crowley was like, Vindication! Because he beat them in a BO1. Even Nuke basically raged at his own team. And then, as far as we can tell, everyone hates fucking Striker. So, even though on paper, it's not even a bad roster, Yamato. Fucking hell, it's just a nightmare of a team. Like, it's just hard to say. They're going to have to fix so many things to get it together like that. I can't think of worse PR to end the split on. It looked like the whole team was a fucking fire. Like, it was destroyed, mate.
You know, earlier when I said that there isn't a single team I'm not excited about, that was because that I didn't see the vision of.
Right.
That was simply because I just forgot Shifters existed.
Okay.
if I had remembered, I wouldn't have said it, and I would say Shifters. There's no fucking vision here. I don't see what the angle is. I do think that the branding is on point because it also reflects on the team. It's just like, who the hell decided on this? You know, I thought that some of the signings kind of made sense in a sense, but then we hear that they paid a 200K buyout for Bukata. It's like, come on now.
You get a lot of players for that money too, bro. That's crazy money, yeah.
And then it's like, to keep in mind, you know, I'm happy that SkewMond is on G2, but they had SkewMond and Paros. That's where we were at some point in time.
Yep.
And BDS is now they scramble for jungle after jungle and had all these problems and issues. Like at this point, I feel like this is the type of team that just needs a complete rehaul. But I think that they just need to kind of start from scratch, because I do think with what you mentioned in regards to Striker, it's like there's been a lot of decisions along the way that BDS did when they finally had that progression and then they peaked. There's been like a steady regression. And then it's like, maybe there were moments in time where you could have replaced Nuke for somebody else. Now you're in a position where Nuke probably is still like your best player on the team.
Yes.
But in terms of like what held you back at certain moments in time, I remember that. And that's who you stuck with, fine. But in terms of like where you go from that, in terms of what your project is, like in my mind, I'm looking at some of these ERL teams and they look far more exciting. You know, it's like even Team Heretics, they made such an aggressive move for their bot lane. I wonder if this is one of those teams where you have to look at some of the ERL teams and you're like, oh, these are players that I want to go. Maybe I get shelf made here, and then you just kind of start over from scratch and you go with the Navi approach, because there seems to be like an interesting mix of players, but also at the same time, maybe you need to find the next coach that can find an impact, because as much praise Striker should receive for when BDS were like cohesive and playing around the Drakes and they had the game identity, now they are scrambling. As the game changed, BDS never did, and they tried to do the same, replicate the same, but they didn't do it. There was some upside in moments. I do think that they had good early games. I think that Trimby found interesting angles around mid lane sometimes. They did throw a lot of games, but I'm looking at the ADC, uninteresting to me. Rooster in the top lane as well, uninteresting to me. There's just not enough firepower here for me to believe that they can build any form of a consistency. So in my mind, if things continue the same way, like this is a team that just needs to be rebooted. Like this is heading towards extinction is how I feel.
In the same way as I talked about Fnatic and how we mentioned how the joke was they were hated on for coming second and third, but you realise now things could be worse. Bro, you look back now on BDS with fucking rose-coloured glasses, like what a great team it was. Remember, you had Labrov, who looked like one of the best supports, just ran the league for fucking objective control. In theory, you've already replaced him. You got Trimby, that's another player that's got a similar like profile as a player, willing to make shot calls, willing to roam, etc. Then, Nuke back then used to just be, I still think he is, he's just on the bad team. He was always an upper half mid laner. He was never the best for my money, but he was usually like third or fourth. He was in that sort of a range. It was reasonable. The problem now is if he's your best player, you're not going to do much as a team. And the real bummer, that's why I contrast them with BDS, is BDS was the success of Striker. That was his vision implemented. They had a really strong identity. They played to it, and it was good enough to be second or third. That was actually, looking back, quite impressive with the players they had. The problem with this team, bro, is even though Striker seemingly has had all the say again and got the players he wanted, on paper, you've got some interesting names, but I think the identity of this squad is scuffed as fuck. That's why they threw all those games. Like, they weren't the consistent team. Like, the old BDS used to close games up, bro. This team was a nightmare. Like, there's no wonder, even though it was that one game. No, I don't think he wigged out because of that one game. He wigged out because there was games before that. There was games afterwards that were also a fucking joke, where they just threw games and they were behind and they came back but they lost, or they were ahead and then they managed to lose. Like, this team just found ways to lose. So I have a question for you. It goes like this. How do we evaluate the Striker problem? Because one of my issues is this, Yamato. One thing I like is that BDS/Shifters has empowered him and let him have his say. Because I told you, one thing I respect about Striker is, think about what we said about someone like Leader. The worst thing you can ever do, by the way, is just be in the middle and be the jack of all trades but does nothing well. Like, if you have a strength, lead into it. I want a coach to pick the players he wants. I want him to say, this is my style of play. I want him to make hard decisions. Say, I'm cutting this guy. This guy's going to remember when he made those Adam and those Crowley decisions. Look, we had to respect it because it was a big move and he had success afterwards. The problem in this era is, in theory, if we gave him all that credit for BDS, he does have to take some of the blame for this Shifters now, though, right? I mean, I want to know what you think of that, because most times coaches I know complain they don't get empowered by the org. They don't get the say. They just get told these players, here's what's happening. I can't kick this guy. This guy seemingly has had the sort of keys to the car, but this time around it hasn't worked.
Yeah, I think just starting from the off seasons, there's just been like such a steady regression. Like Bukara was never a player that was interesting to me, and you know they claim that they did like very like long tryouts, and they came to the conclusion after a lot of testing that they want to play with Bukada. It's not a good look either that the players that leave the Striker projects I hate him. Like that's a very, very bad look. That's a terrible look. We had that whole situation with like 113, and then he wasn't there anymore after one split. This was like all strange. Like Paduk is also like a player that is a very strange import in my mind. The Rooster angle to like basically replace Irrelevant to get another Irrelevant from Korea. I didn't see the angle there. It's also like when you have a player like Irrelevant that, in my mind, I've always said at the time, I thought he was overhyped because people said that he should replace BB and just join Fnatic and all that jazz. But I did think like he was an upgrade over Adam. Then he joined the team and did fuck all. And it's like, to me, it's also another indictment, right? Is that Paros is looking really good now. Labrov is looking really good now. It just seems like it's a poison environment, right? I don't know how you can salvage it because it does seem like he's had rain. Maybe he didn't have access because people didn't want to join the team. That could have been a thing. But there were times that the BDS Academy was giga stacked and they had players there. Maybe there were decisions they could have made earlier on. And maybe SkewMond and Paros could have been their core earlier on if they got a chance to play in the LEC a lot earlier on too. So with that being said, like the off seasons, there's been just a clear regression, 100%. And like it also makes me think about some of those decisions in the past, like when Adam got benched. Oh yeah, no, I was just referencing to Striker benching Adam and how poorly that aged. Because from the outside, without even knowing all the facts, it's like if you bench a player ahead of what could have been one of the most important best of fives that you play, it must have been so egregious that there's no way he's just gonna play again right after that, right? Like there had to be something crazy in that moment, right? And in the aftermath, it's not like Adam changed or became better or anything. Like you replaced him in the end. And maybe that was like the one split where MKOI made it all the way to the finals. And off those points, they got to qualify by beating G2 in the regional qualifier at the end. And those are the decisions that weigh heavy on you, because if it works out, you look like a baller, but if it doesn't, it reflects very poorly on you. So just a track record of decisions that are clearly influenced by Striker. That's the one that makes this this entire ordeal look bad. I don't know what kind of opportunities they had in the off seasons, but it's still that little detail, which is not a little detail, but the fact that the players that leave fucking hate the damn project. It's like Crowny, Ice, and 113. These are guys that it's not like you spend little time with them. Like you work with them for a long time. 113, you reunited with him after being with him in Casey. So it's like a lot of things reflect very, very poorly on shifters. And if you want to like salvage anything, in my mind, it must be like the Paduk and the like Paduk and Bukada just don't belong in LEC, in my opinion. I don't think they're good enough. That's just wasted spots, in my opinion. As lightly put as possible. Like it's quite harsh, but that's just the reality.
Right, okay. Obviously, we only basically covered first stand and LEC because the problem is LPL's a million miles from starting. LCK starts next week on the 1st, and then LCS starts on the weekend of next week. So it's ages now. We'll have plenty of time on the next episode to preview those ones. So what we'll do is we'll now do the Q&A session, and we'll do a little bit longer than we usually do because it's mainly to fill up the show. Obviously, if you would like to ask a question, subscribe to Last Free Nation Discord, then go into the channel. It's just called SI questions, and then you just submit your question there. Also, it doesn't have to be the most recent one. Sometimes we dig back into the ones before. I just tend to pick ones I find interesting generally. So I will now go and pick from the aforementioned channel. And if I go onto there, let's see. This is just a general question. Spookin says, do you have any interest in or thoughts about Halo as an esport back in the MLG days? So he's talking about North American Halo. Have you ever cared about the game Halo?
It was a game that I grew up on, but it's synonymous to me with hanging out with my homies and playing split screen. Like at the time, I was so young that I couldn't even conceive the idea of like esports or MLG. Like that was before my time. I played the game, loved the game, Halo 2 and Halo 3. I grew up on that shit. Beaver Creek for life, but the esports side, I'm out of the loop.
Yeah, here's the problem. I am an elitist in FPS games. I was from the original hardcore Quake. The joke is, I'm such a boomer, I think Quake 3 is slightly watered down. At the time, we would have never touched Unreal Tournament. And actually, the joke is, it's crazy. I had a whole career in Counter-Strike because Counter-Strike was considered a noob's game The idea I'm ever going to go, fuck even COD. I'm not going to Halo. No, I've never given a flying fuck. In fact, I give 0 fucks about Halo at any point in history beyond what I have around my head that shows that God has grace and still accepts me. So, yeah, we'll see. I did that. Right, okay, that's one question.
Saint Thorin.
I could do it, mate. I'd be the one where it's, here's the thing, I would be a saint, but I'd be the one where it's like, I was hated for telling the harsh truths that society didn't want to hear, you know, some shit like that. There'd have to be some angle like that, wouldn't it? Right, here's one for you. So you're gonna like this one. Penthos says, just buckle up for this one. I believe you're both big fans of Seinfeld. I'm curious if you have ever heard of the American sitcom, The King of Queens. It's a project of Kevin James, and it's fine. But the reason I ask is it has Jerry Stiller in the unofficial follow-up to his role as Frank Costanza, in which he plays Kevin James' father-in-law, Arthur Spooner. I actually think the extra airtime he gets makes his character even better because he has contrasting moments of emotional depth to accent all the insane moments that would be familiar to fans of his role on Seinfeld, even as his real wife and comedy partner, Annie Mira, play opposite him in a number of episodes, who he has understandably great chemistry with. Right? If you don't, have you ever seen the jury he's talking about?
I've seen the show, but it was like, how am I supposed to explain this? It was like back in the era of me like watching TV, come home from school, and it's like, oh, I guess this is on, so I will just leave it on.
Yeah.
But nothing to the point where I would like Seinfeld. Is like I've rewatched Seinfeld maybe 10 times.
Sure.
That's like it's borderline like a part of the yearly routine, you know. So, but it now, like as you read it out, I realized that I've seen his character in.
It's very similar. It almost is like the same character, but with a different name. It is.
No, for sure, for sure. I've that connection I could make over what he said, and but for me, it's like still I haven't watched Curb Your Enthusiasm. Like that's my next. That's my next step.
We've got a lot of seasons of that to get to, mate.
Yeah, I need to watch that next. Like watching this show, like I don't even remember the name of what you mentioned, would be like the third thing, you know. That would be like that's like a spin-off in the long distant future. I still need to watch Curb Your Enthusiasm, you know.
Here's the thing, I don't have any ill will towards King Creed. It's all right, but it is very much just a standard American sitcom with the laugh track and they get them husbands silly and the wife's always right, but she's angry. It's all that crap. I will say his character's pretty good because if you did like that character of George Costanza's father, it is sort of the same character. The problem is, though, that wasn't the main reason to watch Seinfeld. So what I would say is this. If you haven't watched Curb Your Enthusiasm, you should watch that, not least because in like, I think it's like season 9 or something, they even have a subplot where they get the cast of Seinfeld back together and they make a modern day Seinfeld episode that references like fucking Bernie Madoff and apps. Like for example, in it, George made an app that tells you where all the best toilets in the city are and became a millionaire, but then he invested his money with Bernie Madoff and lost it all. It's stupid shit like that. So it's actually pretty funny, like the idea of updating the premise of Seinfeld. You would enjoy that part, and also it's a similar type of humor. This one's just whatever. It's a bit mid. I can see why this guy was into it, but whatever. Right, Bot Pounder 420 says, "What's your favorite dog breeds? Do you have a favorite dog breed?"
I have always wanted to have a dog, but the responsibility, I travel a lot and all that jazz.
Okay.
I have 2 cats. It would just put too much strain on life, even though I would love to have a dog. But I've always wanted to have an Australian Shepherd. Like that's been like when in the image in my mind, I see an Australian Shepherd, but I'm also the type of person I really couldn't care. I bond very easily with dogs all the time. So whenever there was like a dog in the gaming house, because the team manager brought it in, like I would always bond with animals super well. So it's like for me, like I'm the kind of guy, like I would walk into, like if I needed the dog, wanted the dog, or had the capacity to have a dog, I would like go into the pound, and it's like the first dog that would have eye contact with me, I would just fall in love, you know, and just come home.
By the way, since in the past we've talked and your dad is Palestinian, is he actually Muslim?
Yeah.
As far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, aren't dogs, you're not supposed to have dogs as a pet if you're Muslim, though, aren't you? Aren't they supposed to be considered unclean or something?
No, it's kind of it's not black and white. It's more like, for example, my father had a dog growing up, but you don't bring a dog into the house.
Right.
It's it's more they like dogs would be viewed more as how farmers would use dogs. It's like they would use to like protect your cattle, to protect your house. You would love them and respect them, but it's like going into the home, that's where like you would like draw the line, you know. Like that would be like the context, because my father had a dog growing up, but it's like the relationship with dogs and cats, it's more like they are, roaming animals in the city that everyone takes care of. Like that's very, very common. Like, for example, in Turkey, the cats are everywhere. They're chilling. People feed them. They're outside and they like deal with, pests and so forth. And they are respected. No one's treating them bad. And it's like if they're like on the street, everyone just walks past. Like you treat animals with the utmost respect. It's just like you draw the line of letting them come into the home. Like that's like where the uncleanliness aspect comes through. And the relationship with animals is a little bit different in that regard.
Because I did wonder about that, because I actually, as people know from Worlds last year, I went on holiday to Turkey, and even though everyone there's Muslim, bro, there were loads of street dogs, and everyone was really lovely to them. Like, they're all feeding them. It's just, as you say, they're all just stray dogs. No, it wasn't anyone's actually dog that were in their house. And also, I will say, just as a little detail for people who are Westerners, I live in the Netherlands, and in the Netherlands, people love dogs, mate. It's a bit like England. So I can tell you, a lot of people do that thing with their dog when they're walking it, that, like, they don't mind their dog running up to someone or, like, engage. But I have to say, because I understand the cultural significance, if I ever see someone who's dressed in a hijab or something, I intentionally keep my dog away from them or whatever. Or if someone's had a dog, I say, keep that back here. Like, you don't know if that person's comfortable with that. Like, because actually I've seen, for example, some Muslim kids, they're like interested, but in a curious way, but they look scared as well. Like, they don't want it to run up because they've never maybe interacted with that. So I wondered in that sense. Obviously now you're your own man, you can do whatever you want. My style of breeds, I just like the ones that are cute, like a Cocker Spaniel or something like that. One thing I don't get about dogs, even though I do think you can have a relationship with a dog and love it, whatever it looks like, I'll never understand people who like the ones I just think are ugly, bro. Like a pug. What the fuck? What sort of abomination is that? Fuck. I mean, yeah, it's a dog, but in the same way as, like, I don't know, Weedles or Pokemon or something, reference to one point. I'd rather have a Charmander or something, you know what I mean? It's just me.
Yeah, no, I get you. It's also like the health complications as well, it's like...
Sure.
There's some breeding that takes place that is also like unethical.
Yeah, that's also why I don't like pugs too. They can't breathe properly about all. It's kind of fucked up that certain breeds even get to exist. Like, we've bred them to basically be like dysgenic and not be able to live a normal life. That's why a pug, it's cute, but it's trying to breathe, but it can't get oxygen in there. Like, come on, give him a nose. Why have you taken his nose away? And basically took a breed of dog and did that, got your nose, and never gave it back. At least your uncle gave the nose back. Whatever. Too much deep baggage in my own life there. Anyway, I'm in therapy. Yeah, he took my nose. I never got it back. Ever since then, I've always wanted a nose. Whatever. Anyway, next question. Fede says, this is a good question. Where does Showmaker rank all time? And when's the last time he's been truly elite?
Ooh. Wow. Well,
I think that's a tough one. All time's tricky for this player, right? Because remember, he is a Worlds winner. He's like an MVP level player. He's had a great career, but I don't know if I'm a hater, Yamato, because even though I respect his game, I don't feel like he'd be like super high up for me. You know what I mean?
I think the longevity, it's like Showmaker staying on Dammon for that long, and then the progression post Canyon era, and the teammates they were surrounded by, there was a lot of issues there, but we've had other players that have maintained greatness with even worse teammates, and I think that's a part of the commentary. Like, I feel like at some point, Showmaker lost the spark. It's like there was a level of being content. I feel like when it comes to Dammon, and it was represented in his gameplay too. There were moments where, like, old Showmaker's back, but it was always very, very short-lived. I do think that his 2019 leading into 2022, 2020 and 2021 and 2022, like, especially, of course, the World's winning year, and then 2021, I do think that he was insanely good, really, really good. But in the contrast to everybody else, like, there's a lot of mid laners that just have had way longer longevity and have gone through many different teammates during their career span, that has showcased so many different sides to them. But there were moments where Showmaker was the greatest mid laner in the world, and there's not a lot of mid laners that can claim that, because mid lane has always been that contested.
Absolutely.
It was just at the cusp of, as Chovy was beginning his dominance, that was just like Showmaker was holding that back for a year or two before that materialized completely, and Chovy started, of course, winning borderline like every LCK split. So Showmaker, for that reason, up there, but I can think of many mid laners I would put above him. Caps, Zhao, Chovy is already mentioned, right?
BDD,
BDD, Scout,
Faker. Keep going.
Faker, yeah, it's like there's many mid laners. Like maybe you could break into top 10 just because of like how good he was in that pocket. But like beyond that, that's where it's tough. And maybe my bias is holding me back here, because maybe in a world where he would, like, if he retired after 2022, would I view him as like a legendary god tier player? Maybe I would. Because I do think the last couple of years I view in more of a negative light, because I do think there was always like at least 3 mid laners better than him regionally.
Yeah, the problem I have is I do think the same thing. He had only a couple of years where he was super duper sick. And even though I don't want to be reductive, it's like one carried the other. Even though they were a great combo, Canyon and Showmaker, for me, Canyon was sort of the more stud side of it, you know. They were both very good, but I also thought like he was the one I was more interested in. I'm not surprised his career sort of lasted longer as a peak player. Look, even in his down years though, the thing about Showmaker that's so almost torturous is every year he'll show you glimpses, bro. I mean, he showed literally some this split, he showed last LCK Cup. If you go back, you remember that 2022, remember that one against Gen.G when he had that Swain game at Worlds? That was fucking unbelievable. That was baller as fuck. So he still has those glimpses where you're like, oh, it's still in there. But I agree with you, it's never been consistent. And unfortunately, as a result, some of the names you've listed played longer than him, mate. Like his longevity doesn't match up with the others. So unfortunately, yeah, it's probably, if we're being realistic, if we count all players, not just mid lane, it's probably like borderline top 20 for all roles, top 30. But I agree, there's a lot of mid laners we're getting at him. Scout, there's a bunch, mate. You can go a lot of names, unfortunately. So I feel like he just hasn't. That's why I like the question, though. It's a harder one to rank. It's not one of those easy ones like 5th, 10th. This is a bit tricky. I'd have to probably even make a list.
Just like what's impressive about his career is also the problem of his career, is that being the best in mid lane is like during any period is extremely impressive. But at the same time, there's like the competition for the mid lane role. The list is just too tough. It's like the players we mentioned are just too legendary. While in other positions, like when we talk about top lane, it's like it's so up in the air about who could be like the biggest candidate for being like super good. Mid lane is just too stacked, and the usual suspects have just been around always.
The dog says, can you wax lyrical on a book you read in the last couple of years? Do you know what that term means, wax lyrical?
Wax lyrical? No.
It basically slang that means like glaze almost. Like just give me like almost like a fantastical, poetic, like get passionate about like a book you've read in the last few years. What would be one you'd explain by explaining what was awesome about it, what was cool, what was excellent?
Oh shit! Like, I feel so bad because we had like the question recently in regards to books, and
not much of a reader.
We get a couple of like book questions every now and then. I haven't read a book in a long time. Like that's.
I'll give you a tip.
Issue.
Even if you don't read at home, where I would suggest you make this a habit is when you're on planes, Yamato. You can get the Kindle or something like that and have an e-reader. Because here's what I do when I go on a plane, because I've been on a billion planes in my life. I make it that I sort of do things in order of how much attention they take. So I start with a book because I've started on the trip. You know, I'm not tired yet. I don't need food yet. I can start. And if I have like a long haul flight, then I spend the first 1 or 2 hours reading a book. Then when I feel maybe a bit more tired or a bit bored, then maybe I go to like, you know, fucking get a laptop out or start watching a movie. And then at the end, when I'm just doing that thing where you're half sleeping and you half get woken up, at the end, I just do the thing where you watch random TV episodes. You don't give a shit if you're following along, or you watch a bad superhero movie, but it's like, who even cares what happens in this one? And so I find if you're trapped for 6 or 7 hours, it's a pretty good place to get like an hour of reading in and pass the time, you know?
You know, no, my issue, or not the issue really, is just my choice, is just the world in terms of where it is politically and the state of the world the last 3 years. Any form of free time I have outside of like the hobby and the job, right, that is League and the streaming and so forth, and whenever I carve out like 2 hours to consume something else, it's always like what are the ongoing affairs, because obviously a lot of it is very close to heart. Okay. And also it's like it's real time happening all the time. It's like this is not stuff that you could get to reading books. So nice. It's like I'm just tied to like the big interview channels, and I'm just looking at what's going on in terms of where the world is at, because every day everything just changes. Like the last 3 years have been nuts in terms of how every year, every day something different is going on. Like yes. It's been on complete steroids, and people are going to write books about this, but there's nobody that can keep up in writing books about what is going on currently. But if there's one book, now that I think of it, because I actually have it right next to me because I talked about it, it is, do I have it next to me? I have it right here. This book I can glaze. I just need some time sometimes, Thorin. This one, I have it right here. This is Techno-Feudalism by Yanis Varoufakis. As you know, the context of like feudalism, it's like a feudalistic society, how a king ruled over land. No one owned land, and you had to pay a fee and a rent. And basically, the thesis and the idea of the book, right, is what killed capitalism, in the sense that we live in a form of techno-feudalism where we are basically, renting towards the landlords that are the tech overlords. Because in terms of what kind of movement you have and in terms of what money you can make is largely determined by the tech overlords, right? It's like if YouTube decided, they could kill us today, we could get banned off of Twitch. It's like,
yeah, absolutely.
Think about Amazon or Google, all these companies in terms of what is shown, in terms of the algorithm, everything is decided by them. We are basically living on their land and we are paying rent, right? And that is like the basic version of that. And for me, it was very, very eye-opening and got me thinking in terms of where the context of the world is, because the beauty of what would be capitalism, right, is it's the free competition, but competition is not free at all, considering there is clear victors, right? There's clear victors. And maybe that's a consequence of capitalism, but we already live in a world where big companies have already won. So this one, I'm going to put on wax.
Well, here's what's funny is we're actually misaligned here, because the book I was going to pick to wax lyrical on, the joke is, would probably be the favorite book of the tech overlords you hate in your scenario and would describe the world that people would think is unfair. Because actually, the book I read only a couple of years ago that I thought was mega was the book Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. And basically, it's a massive book about like being an individual, sort of. Like, the thing about this book that's interesting is it's about brilliant people who in their fields are sort of like the people innovating and inventing new things, and it's all about how society holds you down and gets at people like that and takes from them. And it's about things like who really created the value, and the idea that like the little people who are just plebs, they can sort of be like, hey, you owe us your invention and you have to do this, and ideas that I very much relate to, like the idea of like people take the idea of equity and equality and they take that not as the idea of like how do we help people who are struggling. They do take the idea of like, oh, you have too much. We have to limit what you've got. We have to take you away from you. You have to diminish you. You can't do these things. You have to ask permission, and they create laws that stop you. So it's a really thought-provoking book. I will say this: it's really long, but the beauty of the book is this: if you read the first 100 pages and you like it, you're gonna love the whole thing. If you don't, then it's not for you. The rest of it's quite like that. So if you ever start it, you'll know pretty quickly if it's for you. As a very idiosyncratic, unique style of writing, which I personally enjoyed. So I think it was an amazing book. It was one of those ones that really gave me like epiphanies. It was blowing my mind. It's also, by the way, I'll look up what year it was written in. I'm going to guess like 50s or something. Atlas Shrugged written. But you would, it's one of those books. Yeah, 1957, this novel came out. You would read this book and genuinely believe they were talking about now and things like that. So it's got that prescience to it, which I found really interesting. I think it's got timeless quality to it. So, and it's a very American sort of idealistic book too. So I thought it was a brilliant book personally.
I wouldn't say that thesis isn't really the counter of what.
No, but I know, for example, right? A lot of people who are like the tech billionaires love that book because their whole shit's like, hey, stay away from it all. I should be allowed to do whatever I want. So it's not that directly, but I mean, pretty sweet. Like the people who you're billing as the villains, they probably love that book, mate. But maybe they misinterpret it or they have their own agenda or something.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that, because it's like at the end, I think I can imagine many circumstances, many examples of, let's say, companies or billionaires that have won in certain contexts, how they would stifle progression because it would be counterintuitive to what their monopoly would be, right? That has happened many times. I remember, I don't know how many conspiracy theories that have come up. It's like, oh, someone has figured out how to make a car powered by this thing that is available to you. And it's like 3 days later, found dead in his dorm. It's like,
yes.
What the fuck?
It's always like, tragically, he committed suicide by double tapping himself in the back of the head. Which I always take as like, not a mistake. The whole point there, Yamato, is you're supposed to read that and go, wait a minute, that sounds like someone. I don't have an opinion about this topic. Goodbye. Like that's a fucking warning, bro. It's some mafia shit in it. I know. Like, I don't know about that. Right, what about this question? It's a pretty good one. Sup says, I miss when player names would be tied to iconic plays and play styles, i.e. Flame Horizon. I'll actually explain all these. That's the one where you like double the CS and the other person, or you're 100 ahead or whatever. The Messiah, which is where you do the TF port after you do the card. Captain Jack's, where you do the instant cleanse. The Expect is obviously the backdoor. He says, are there any new player/play combos you would mint? Like, is there any that we can create that would go into this group? Can you think of a modern player with either a champion or a player that deserves to go in that category?
Oof. You know, I can't think of anything right off the bat, because it's like, it's always, I feel like it's always tied to the, in my mind, it's always tied to like the watcher and what the watcher's experiences. Because I feel like we in the past, you would tune into the LCK and you would, or OGN at the time, and you would hear Monty and Doa. You would hear them. Whatever match was playing, you couldn't give a shit about the teams. You tune in, you hear Monty and Doa. On occasion, somebody else subbed in, but you heard the same voices. You watch traditional sports. Bro, the same person that was casting the games when you were young is casting when you're old too. He's with the club for 40 years or with the channel for 40 years. It's always the consistency and the longevity of the casters. And I feel like that is what is always spawning those legendary moments where a caster sets to, like, a caster is allowed to build that relationship with the audience. But when you're switching the casters and you are switching the pairs and switching all the time, you don't have that same room to build a very, very deep connection with the audience on that level. Because in my mind, tied with that is also, as the game gets like more and more figured out, is also becomes a little bit more boring, in the sense that the excitement in a play, like if someone gets a 5-man cannon ult, I instantly think, oh, that's Smeb. But it's like at some point there's also kind of a saturation.
Yes.
Because if someone did the insect play for the first time today, no one would give a shit. And in the beginning, it was just so mind-boggling, which is also part of the challenge. So I'm posing two sides of the challenge of why we see it less and less, because I do think that from the CS side, like, is it always the same casting duos that are casting like the finals?
Largely,
and the
yes.
majors?
Yes, it's like 3 casting duos that cycle basically.
And they are always together, right? The duos, or they are
Yes,
switching between?
it's always the same duo pretty much.
And I think that's insanely powerful. Like, that's so powerful in my mind, because it gives you a deep relationship with the audience. But even LEC is like, they are separating Medi and Vedi so many times. They're not casting together. What the hell are we doing? It's like, that's like 7 years under their belt of like straight fire, you know? And it's like, there is they are such a massive outlier in terms of the experience they have together that is so important to leverage, in my mind. I'm going on a big tangent, because the question was, can we coin terms? So I'm gonna coin some terms, Thorin. You do it.
The real problem is there's just none that have like the catchy name like Mad Life, Insect. There are players that I think of that are iconic. Like, I actually have one that we could even term. I think, considering how many times he did it at Worlds, we should call it like a Faker shuffle. If you do a Sicker Z shuffle, so that would be a good one. I was also thinking of like the Shy Aatrox donk, the one he did on G2. That's pretty iconic in it. And then I haven't got a name for this, but there needs to be something for Kerrier and Bard, bro. He's just too good on that. Like, there's something, I don't know, Kerrier's Magical Journey or something. It's just something about him is like unique with that champion. So there's not as many, like I did a Fake and Shuffle one there, but there's not as many like specific to the, like, one thing that was great about the Expected stuff is the combo of it's what's sick. I like that. I do like that.
There's also like the common one now, right? Is just with Chovy. Like, whenever someone's like farming and saying, oh, this guy is just Choving. Like,
yeah.
Someone's learning well, it's just Choving. It's just fucking, it's Chovy. Like, someone's playing range tab, this guy thinks he's Zeus. He's trying to Zeus. Keen is Zeus? Fuck off. Yes. Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. That could be that. Well, let's go to another one. Let's see. Right, we'll do this last one. It's a big one, so let's ask this. Talon says, I have solved EU's format. We have 5 match days: Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Weekdays are 2 BO3 played online broadcasting it 4 to 10 p.m.-ish Central European time. That lets working people catch the games. It's 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and 7 a.m. PST. About the best you can get time slot-wise. Weekends are studio BO5s. Double round robin played simultaneously where each team plays each other in a BO3 and in the BO5. Points-based table, so the BO5s count for 1.5 times the points of best of 3. This gives amazing stage practice for our pros. Every team will have been drafting BO5s all year long instead of just playoffs. Every rookie will have significant BO5 experience. It also sets up great conversations for teams that are good in the BO3s, but are struggling in the BO5s, and could help showcase those players who are known as more scrim demons that fail to translate to the stage the skills teams see behind the scenes. The broadcast storylines could also be excellent. To keep costs low, I might lose people on this, but it gives it more of a relaxed vibe. Give it more of a couch cast style and open it for more tier 2 talent as well, where you can have lower day rates. Casters who want to grind and earn more money can take the weekday gigs, and your tier 1.5 or tier 2 casters have more chance for a bigger gig to showcase their craft. Do the whole shebang for studio days, or you could make LEC weekdays core stream only to be extra cynical. To make this a question, am I wrong? What do you think of that? There's a lot in there, but what do you think?
Well, first and foremost, like the first part, he just stole from me and BLG, because we've had similar conversations. Like last year, I remember, I was saying that I think they should just stack the weekends with the good matches and make them in the studio, and the rest basically offline because of like the BO1s, because they couldn't find time to play the BO3s, and that was often a complaint. But that is pretty much like the LCK format. I think that mixing best of 3s and BO5s in a regular split is just way too convoluted. I think that at that point in time, I am more bought into the hype that comes with the BO5s. I do think if you get to see them once, it won't be as exciting when you get to see them again. And I do think that there's a clear progression when you play best of 3s and then best of 5s. That progression, I kind of like it. And I don't think that, because in the end, it's like you need to make sure that the format isn't confusing, and you need to make the games impactful at the same time. And I do think this just makes it convoluted for all the wrong reasons, where the justification being like international, like preparing you for international practice. Like I do think that playing BO1s in some theory, considering the Swiss stage, does prepare you more, so you can make the counter argument that the best of 5s, we need to reach them in the first place, you know? So I don't think it's a real argument that it preps you for international events. I think the BO3s do that well, and I think the sanctity of keeping BO5 for playoffs is still it's a good let's say compromise, when Riot always talking about making sure that the games have stakes and they're all hype. I think that's a good compromise.
My problem with this is, to me, he's even though he thinks he's thinking outside the box, he's still trapped within the paradigm of what the different leagues are around the world. To me, the most obvious change ever, and you know what? Fuck it. Maybe this is just not the way Asians think, but it definitely is the way Europeans and Westerners think. I still think the best and most satisfying format that you can have is an open circuit of multiple tournaments. I still think if you had a tournament that lasted 1 or 2 weeks, and then a week or 2 break, and then another one that's 1 or 2 weeks, I think that's way better for us in the West. Like, what we like about that is it's a small cycle. You can watch that tournament, you can tune in just for the playoffs and get hyped as it builds up, like Counter-Strike. Then you have multiple chances. So whereas you get silly things, like if you remember in the first week of LEC versus, GX looked really good. Then they looked shit for the rest of the split. What if that had been a mini tournament and they'd made the finals? That would be kind of cool. Now it'll never even be remembered they were good in the BO1s, mate, because actually people will just think at the end of the split they were irrelevant. Similarly, if you're KC, bro, you got nothing out of this split. You came second and didn't get to go to first stand. If there'd have been some tournaments, you might have won one and shown like, hey, this has the potential to be the real best European team. Maybe we even beat G2 one time. I think just small tournaments is a way better. Essentially a tournament series or circuit, I think it's just better than leagues. I'm just not a league fan. I don't mind if you have like one split be a league. Maybe you want the one before Worlds as the build up to it. But I think especially early in the year, I'm obviously biased because I've come from games like Quake, Counter-Strike, StarCraft that I've done. I just think it's better to follow, and I like the storylines. I also like having many chances to win, you know. So I'd go to that. I'd just do an open circuit, basically. which I also think, by the way, is spoiler, given enough time, might be a couple more years, I think one day either the Saudis directly or someone will just be doing something like that in Europe. I think it will be back to being like third party running tournaments, and we'll be back to sort of like what we were back at the beginning of your career.
I hope so. I hope so.
Right, that is enough for now. That was Summoning Insight. We'll be back next week with more Summoning Insights. If you don't like it, put that in your pipe and smoke it.